Naruto stood at the edge of the Valley of the End, his eyes tracing the jagged statue of Madara Uchiha, the stone sentinel that watched over the river below. Rain hammered against his cloak, but he barely noticed. He was lost in thought, a thought darker and heavier than the storm above. His chest burned, not from exertion, but from the weight of his decision. Behind him, the lifeless body of Sasuke lay, sprawled against the cracked earth. Lightning flickered in the distance, casting the fallen Uchiha's face in fleeting shadows. The once fierce eyes now empty. Naruto's breath came in shallow bursts, his fists clenched tightly by his sides. His victory should have felt triumphant. This was the moment he'd been fighting for, wasn't it? But instead of triumph, all he felt was a void. "I'm sorry," he whispered, barely audible beneath the roar of the storm. "I thought," his voice cracked, "I thought I could save you." Sasuke had refused. Again. His hatred, his obsession with vengeance, had driven him to this point. And now he was gone. Naruto knelt beside Sasuke's body, trembling. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. He'd spent his whole life trying to protect his friends, his village. He'd become the Hokage for them. But this was wrong. Everything felt wrong. All that power, and it was still meaningless in the end. He turned his head toward the river, where the reflection of the statues loomed like titans. They were figures of the past, just like him. Legends of an era that didn't belong anymore. The shinobi world was broken, fractured by endless cycles of war, betrayal, and hatred. Every time they thought they'd achieved peace, something tore it apart again. Akatsuki, the fourth great ninja war, Kagaya, even Sasuke. The system was rotten to its core. What's the point of it all if we just keep coming back to this? Naruto's heart ached with frustration. But then, there was something else. A pull, faint at first, like a whisper in the back of his mind, but growing louder, more insistent. It wasn't the Kyuubi. Kurama had grown silent, dormant. This was different. He felt his eyes grow heavier as he stood, almost as though something were guiding him to the statues. His feet moved on their own accord, leading him into the shadow of Madara's imposing figure. "You seek purpose, child of prophecy," a voice said. It came from everywhere and nowhere. It was ancient, cold, and yet alluring. Naruto froze. His heartbeat quickened. "Who's there?" The air shimmered before him. And then, as if summoned from the ether, a figure appeared. A man with white hair, draped in an ethereal cloak. His skin was pale as death, and his eyes, those eyes glowed with an eerie malevolence, slit like a serpent's, but filled with wisdom older than any Naruto had encountered. "You desire peace, yet you are trapped in an endless cycle of suffering. You want to change the world, don't you?" The man's voice was smooth, like silk. "But you have seen it for what it is. No amount of love, no amount of power, will ever break this curse. Not unless you take control of it." Naruto stared at the figure, his heart pounding in his chest. "Who are you?" The man smiled faintly. "You know me, Naruto Uzumaki. I am the dream you have always sought to escape. I am the force that binds this world in perpetual conflict. But I can offer you something greater." Naruto's fists clenched. "What are you talking about?" "Power." The word hung in the air, charged with a weight that made Naruto's pulse quicken. "The power to break free. To reshape this world in your image. No more compromises. No more sacrifice. You alone will stand as the savior of mankind. But it will require a choice. You will have to let go of everything." Naruto took a step back, his mind racing. This wasn't the same as the tempting offers from the past. This was something more. It wasn't the promise of raw strength like Kyuubi's power or the Sage of Six Paths gifts. This was something darker. It was absolute. You saw how they abandoned you, Naruto. Your village, your friends. They look to you for salvation. But none of them truly understand. You are alone. As you always have been. Even your beloved Sasuke has fallen to the darkness. A surge of emotion welled up in Naruto's chest. The pain of losing Sasuke. The endless battles. The weight of the village on his shoulders. It all came crashing down at once. And with it, something darker stirred. A seed of resentment. A need for control. For order. Naruto shook his head violently, trying to resist the pull of the stranger's words. But his heart was too heavy, too broken. No more wars. No more sacrifices, the man said, his voice now a soft whisper. You can create a new world. One where you decide the rules. The storm overhead intensified, lightning splitting the sky as the man extended his hand. Will you accept this power? Will you break free of the chains that bind you? Naruto hesitated. His entire life flashed before his eyes. The faces of his friends, his teachers, the villagers, all of them depending on him, yet none of them truly understanding the burden he carried. Then he thought of Sasuke, the friend he couldn't save. With a heavy heart, Naruto extended his hand and grasped the figures. The moment their hands touched, Naruto felt a surge of power unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was cold, sharp, and suffocating, yet intoxicating in its intensity. His vision blurred as memories of his life, his struggles, his dreams, his hopes, began to dissolve. They were replaced by something else. A new purpose. When Naruto opened his eyes again, they were no longer the bright, hopeful blue of the past. They were hollow, swirling with a darkness that mirrored the endless void inside him. Except, Naruto whispered. The man smiled. Welcome to the new dawn, Naruto Uzumaki. The world reeled in the wake of Naruto's transformation. The first to feel his wrath was Konoha itself. No longer content to play the role of protector, Naruto sought to impose order on the world. His order, the dream he once held of peace through understanding, had twisted into a nightmare of control through force. He had seen too much, endured too much, to believe that the shinobi world could ever be fixed by kindness. The night Konoha burned was one that would be remembered for generations. With a wave of his hand, Naruto summoned flames from the sky, reducing buildings to ash in moments. His former comrades, Kakashi, Sakura, even Tsunade, rushed to stop him, but none could stand against his newfound power. The nine tails, fully unleashed and merged with Naruto's will, tore through the village like a demon out of legend. I wanted peace. Naruto's voice boomed over the chaos. But none of you listened. You only ever wanted me to fight your battles, to carry your hopes while you did nothing. Well, no more. His eyes glowed with malevolent power as he hovered over the destruction, his cloak billowing in the inferno. This world doesn't deserve saving. It deserves to be rebuilt. The survivors of Konoha fled in terror, scattered like leaves in the wind. Sakura, bloody and broken, watched helplessly as the Hokage monument crumbled under the weight of Naruto's fury. The faces of the former Hokage, symbols of hope and leadership, shattered and fell to the ground. Naruto turned his gaze to the horizon, where the other great nations lay, blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to descend upon them. His mind buzzed with visions of conquest, of reshaping the world through sheer power and dominance. I will become something greater than any Hokage, greater than any god, Naruto murmured. I will be the one to unite this world, under my rule. With a flick of his wrist, he summoned a portal of swirling black energy. The remnants of Konoha crackled and smoldered in the background as Naruto stepped through, disappearing into the night. The world as they knew it was over, and the reign of the Mad Warbringer had begun. The world felt quiet, too quiet. Konoha had once been a bustling village filled with laughter, chatter, and the constant rhythm of everyday life. Now, it was a hollow shell of what it once was. Fires still smoldered in the rubble, casting long shadows over the ruins, and the thick smell of smoke lingered in the air like death itself. In the distance, a lone figure moved slowly through the wreckage. Sakura Haruno dragged herself across the charred earth, her body broken, her limbs trembling with every movement. Her pink hair was matted with blood and soot, her emerald eyes dull with shock. She had been one of the strongest kunoichi of her generation, a warrior who had faced gods and monsters. But she had never felt so powerless. Not against this, not against him. She stopped, her breath ragged, and looked up toward what had once been the Hokage's office. Now, it was nothing more than a pile of stone and twisted wood. Her heart clenched painfully in her chest as she thought of all the lives that had been lost, all the people she had failed to protect. Why? She whispered, her voice hoarse and cracked. Why would you do this, Naruto? Her mind raced, replaying the events of the night. The attack had come without warning. One moment, the village was quiet, and the next, the sky was ablaze with fire. At first, they had thought it was an outside invasion, maybe remnants of some old enemy like the Akatsuki or some rogue shinobi faction. But then, she saw him, Naruto, their Hokage. The one person who had always fought to protect the village, now standing at the center of the destruction with an expression that chilled her to her core. His face was cold, his eyes devoid of the warmth and kindness she had known. His presence felt alien. He wasn't the Naruto she had grown up with, the Naruto who had fought tooth and nail to save everyone, even his enemies. This Naruto was different, twisted. A part of her still couldn't believe it. Naruto had always been their hope. He was the light in the darkness, the one who always found a way to break the cycle of hatred and war. But now, he had become the very thing he had sworn to destroy. A rustling sound behind her broke her from her thoughts. Sakura tensed, reaching for a kunai with her remaining strength. Her hand trembled as she gripped the blade, her muscles screaming in protest. "Who's there?" she rasped, struggling to stay alert. A figure emerged from the shadows, limping toward her. As it drew closer, Sakura's heart skipped a beat. "Kakashi-sensei," she breathed. The sixth Hokage, her former teacher, was barely recognizable. His mask was torn, blood staining the white cloth, and his left arm hung uselessly at his side. His Sharingan was gone, the eye dark and hollow. He looked at her with a weary, defeated gaze. "Sakura," he said softly, his voice laced with exhaustion. "Are you all right?" She nodded weakly, though her injury spoke otherwise. "I'll survive," she whispered. "But Konoha, it's gone." Kakashi's face darkened. He glanced over his shoulder at the ruins of their village, a flicker of pain crossing his face. "Yes," he said quietly. "Naruto? He's done the unthinkable." Sakura swallowed hard. "What happened to him?" "Sensei. Why would he?" Kakashi knelt beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. His voice was heavy with regret. "Naruto has changed. I don't know what caused it, but something deep inside him snapped." Sakura's heart sank. "I should have been able to stop him," she whispered. "We should have seen it coming. We all believed in him," Kakashi said, his voice pained. Naruto had the weight of the entire world on his shoulders. And somewhere along the way, he lost himself. Silence fell between them as the gravity of the situation settled in. The Naruto they had once known was gone, replaced by something far more dangerous. And now, he was out there, somewhere, preparing for something much worse than the destruction of Konoha. "We can't let him continue this," Sakura said, her voice stronger now, despite the pain that racked her body. "We have to stop him." Kakashi's eyes hardened. "We will. But it won't be easy. He's no longer the Naruto we trained or fought beside. He has power now, power beyond anything we've ever seen." Sakura clenched her fists. "Then we'll find a way. No matter what it takes." Naruto's new dominion far from the ruins of Konoha. Naruto stood atop a cliff overlooking the sprawling landscape of the Land of Fire. The wind howled around him, carrying with it the scent of smoke and ash. But to Naruto, it was the smell of rebirth. He had razed Konoha to the ground, not out of hatred, but out of necessity. It was a symbol of the old world, a world where people clung to fragile peace built on lies and compromise. That world was gone now, and in its place, a new one would rise, one shaped by his vision. Naruto's eyes glowed faintly in the darkness, the pupils still those eerie, slit-like marks that reflected the void within him. He could feel the power coursing through his veins, the raw, limitless strength he had been given. He was no longer bound by the weak ideals of peace and friendship. Those had failed him, failed Sasuke, failed everyone. Power was the only truth. A ripple of energy spread from his body as he raised his hand, and the air around him shimmered. In the distance, figures began to emerge from the shadows: shinobi, mercenaries, and rogue ninja. They had come from all corners of the world, drawn to the promise of something greater. Naruto looked down at them with cold detachment. These were the first of his new army, Soldiers who would help him reshape the world, tear down the old systems and build something stronger. Something unbreakable. My new world will not be built on the lies of the past, Naruto said, his voice carrying over the wind. No more Hokage. No more cages. There will be one ruler, one absolute authority. The shinobi below him knelt, their heads bowed in submission. They had witnessed the destruction of Konoha, seen the power Naruto wielded, and they knew resistance was futile. Naruto turned away from them, his gaze fixed on the horizon. Beyond the borders of the Land of Fire, the other great nations remained blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to befall them. The shinobi world was about to enter an age of conquest and domination, and Naruto would be the one to lead it. A throne built on ashes. A crown forged from the blood of his enemies. I will bring true peace, Naruto murmured, more to himself than to the others. But it will be a peace of submission, of order. A world where no one dares to defy the one who rules over them. The memories of his old friends, his old life, flitted through his mind for the briefest of moments. Sakura, Kakashi, even Sasuke. But those memories no longer held sway over him. They were relics of a past that had no place in the world he was about to create. The gathering storm back in Konoha's ruins. Kakashi and Sakura regrouped with the few survivors who had managed to escape the initial onslaught. They were battered, broken, and filled with despair. But among them, a new resolve had begun to take root. We need to find the others, Kakashi said grimly, looking out over the horizon. Naruto's declared war on the world. If we don't stop him soon, there'll be nothing left. Sakura nodded. We'll find everyone. Hinata, Shikamaru, Gaara, anyone who can still fight. We'll need them all. Kakashi placed a hand on her shoulder. It's going to be a long, bloody road. Sakura's gaze hardened. Her fist clenched. Then we'll walk it. No matter what it takes. And so, the remnants of Konoha's once great shinobi forces prepared for what would come to be known as the bloodiest war in the history of the ninja world. The Naruto War. The land between the great shinobi nations had always been wild, untamed, an expanse of forests, mountains, and deserts that held the scars of countless wars. Now, these lands were alive again. But not with the sounds of nature. Instead, the drumbeats of war echoed across the terrain, growing louder with each passing day. Naruto had unleashed something terrible upon the world. From the ruins of Konoha, his influence spread like a plague. Rumors of his power had reached every corner of the continent. Tales of a Hokage gone mad, of entire villages consumed by flames, and of shinobi armies bowing before his might reached even the most remote settlements. And with those stories came a question whispered in fear. Who can stand against the mad warbringer? The hidden sand village. Suna in the heart of the desert. Suna's leaders gathered in the cage's office. The air thick with tension. Gaara, the cage, sat at the head of the table, his arms crossed, his teal eyes focused on the reports spread before him. His expression was unreadable. But there was a storm brewing behind those eyes. I never thought I'd hear something like this, said Kankuro, Gaara's older brother, as he stood to the side, his arms folded. Naruto, of all people. Gaara's hand clenched into a fist as he listened to the reports of Konoha's fall, of Naruto's warpath. Naruto was once our ally, our friend. But the man they describe now. He's not the same person. Temari, Gaara's sister, leaned forward. What's our move? Gaara. We can't ignore this. If Naruto's really on the march, the Land of Wind could be next. Gaara closed his eyes for a moment, gathering his thoughts. He and Naruto had shared similar paths. Both Jinchuriki once feared by their villages. Both finding a way to become leaders. The idea of Naruto, someone who had once been the beacon of hope, turning into this harbinger of destruction was unfathomable. We'll gather our forces, Gaara said finally, his voice steady. But we can't act alone. Naruto's power is unlike anything we've seen. If we face him without a plan, Suna will fall just like Konoha. Temari raised an eyebrow. You're talking about an alliance? Yes, Gaara replied. If Naruto's truly declared war on the world, we'll need to unite all the great nations to stand against him. Kankuro let out a low whistle. Getting the other cages to agree to that won't be easy. Gaara's gaze hardened. It has to be done. If we don't unite now, we won't have a world left to defend. He stood, his decision made. Prepare the message, Hawks. I'm calling an emergency summit of the 5 Cage. The Hidden Leaf. Konoha's refugees far from the ruins of their home. The survivors of Konoha gathered in a makeshift camp nestled within the forests of the Land of Fire. It was a pitiful sight. Shinobi who had once defended one of the greatest villages in the world now reduced to refugees, huddling around fires for warmth. The village's elders and leaders struggled to maintain order. But the people were broken. Lost. Sakura sat by the edge of the camp, staring into the flickering flames of a fire. Her mind was heavy with the events of the past days. They had barely escaped Naruto's assault with their lives. But the emotional toll was far worse. She had watched her home burn, seen friends and comrades fall, and worst of all, she had seen the boy she loved become a monster. Next to her, Shikamaru approached, his usual lazy demeanor replaced by grim determination. I've sent scouts to track Naruto's movements. So far, it seems like he's gathering forces in the northern territories. Sakura nodded. Any word from the other villages? Not yet, Shikamaru said, sitting down next to her. But I'm sure Gaara's already preparing something. If anyone's smart enough to realize the threat Naruto poses, it's him. Sakura's hands trembled slightly as she recalled Naruto's eyes during the attack. They were so cold, so distant. She had always believed in him, in his dream to bring peace to the world. But now, do you think he's still in there? She asked quietly, not looking at Shikamaru. The old Naruto? I mean, Shikamaru sighed, glancing up at the night sky. I don't know, Sakura. What happened to Naruto? It's not just about power. Something deeper is driving him. It's like he's convinced this is the only way. Sakura gritted her teeth. Then we'll have to stop him. No matter what. A silence settled between them, and Shikamaru looked over at her. We're going to need every ally we can get for this. If we're going to face Naruto, it won't be just a battle of strength. We'll need strategy, information, and a way to counter whatever power he's gained. Sakura nodded, her resolve hardening. We'll stop him, Shikamaru. For Konoha. For everyone. Naruto's new empire in a remote mountain fortress. Naruto's army was growing. Mercenaries, rogue ninja, and disillusioned shinobi flocked to his banner. They were men and women who had been cast aside by the shinobi world. Those who had suffered in the endless wars and saw in Naruto an opportunity to rise again. To create a world where strength ruled above all. Naruto stood atop the central tower, watching as his new soldiers trained in the courtyard below. The fortress had once been a stronghold of the Land of Iron, but it had fallen easily under Naruto's assault. Now, it was his base of operations, the first of many. His mind was clear, sharper than it had ever been. Gone were the doubts and insecurities of the past. The power he had gained, this dark, unfathomable energy, had given him purpose. He saw the world for what it truly was now. A place where ideals were fragile, where peace was an illusion, and only through dominance, through absolute control, could real peace be achieved. Behind him, a voice called out, "My lord." Naruto turned to see a group of his lieutenants, shinobi from various villages who had pledged their loyalty to him. The one who spoke was a former mist ninja, a dangerous rogue with a jagged scar across his face. We've received reports that Gaara of the Sand is gathering forces, the rogue said. It seems the 5 Cage are preparing for war. Naruto's eyes flickered with dark amusement. Good. Let them gather. The rogue hesitated for a moment. If they unite, they could pose a serious threat. Naruto smirked, his eyes glinting with malevolent confidence. There's no threat they can pose that I haven't already prepared for. The 5 Cage, they're relics of an old system. They still believe in a world of balance, of fragile peace. But I will show them the truth. He walked to the edge of the tower, his gaze sweeping over the horizon. I will tear down their false kingdoms and build something new. They will either bow to me, or they will burn like Konoha. The rogue nodded, though a flicker of fear passed through his eyes. He had seen what Naruto was capable of, seen him obliterate an entire battalion of shinobi with a single gesture. This was no longer the boy hero who had saved the world from Kagaya. This was something else entirely. Naruto raised his hand, and the air around him shimmered with energy. In the distance, storm clouds began to gather, dark and swirling with ominous power. The time for negotiation is over, Naruto said quietly, more to himself than to his subordinates. Let them come. I'll show them what true power looks like. The 5-cage summit in the land of iron, where the eternal snows fell upon ancient mountains. The 5-cage gathered once again in the Hall of Lords. The room was cold, the atmosphere tense. Gaara sat at the center, his expression serious, his presence commanding as he addressed the other cage. The threat we face is unprecedented, Gaara said, his voice steady but urgent. Naruto Uzumaki, once our greatest hope, has declared war on the world. Konoha has fallen. If we don't act now, the rest of the great nations will follow. Darui, the Raikage, crossed his arms, his face grim. I've seen the reports. His power, it's on a level we can't ignore. We need to hit him hard, and fast, before he gains more ground. The Mizukage, Chojuro, nodded in agreement. But how do we fight him? This isn't just about military strength. Naruto was once one of the strongest shinobi alive even before this transformation. Now, he's something else. Gaara glanced toward the Tsuchikage. Kuretsuchi, who had been silent for most of the meeting. Her brow was furrowed in deep thought. He's dangerous, she said finally, her voice low. But we've faced gods before. We'll need more than just armies. We'll need information. We have to understand what he's become. Gaara nodded. Agreed. We'll need to be prepared for anything. The room fell silent as the weight of their task settled upon them. Naruto Uzumaki, once the savior of their world, was now its greatest threat. They had no choice but to unite, to fight back with everything they had. The world was at the brink of war once again. But this time, the enemy was not a foreign army or a godlike creature from another realm. This time, the enemy was one of their own. The 5-cage parted ways from the emergency summit, each of them returning to their villages with a weight heavier than they had ever known. The world stood on the precipice of a cataclysm, and they would need every weapon, every strategy, and every last ounce of willpower to survive what was to come. But for all their preparation, the looming war felt like it was already lost. No one spoke the truth aloud. Naruto Uzumaki, the savior of the ninja world, had become something far more dangerous than any of them could have predicted. Naruto's dominion. The march begins. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting long shadows over Naruto's fortress. His army stood at attention, a mixture of rogue shinobi, mercenaries, and those too consumed by hatred and disillusionment to care about loyalty or honor. Their armor was mismatched, their weapons crude but deadly. They were the dregs of the shinobi world, exactly the kind of soldiers Naruto needed for his war of conquest. Naruto stood before them, his presence towering and commanding. The once boyish warmth of his smile had been replaced by a cold, calculating gaze. His iconic orange jumpsuit was gone, replaced with dark, battle-worn robes that seemed to absorb the light around him. His eyes, those terrifying slit pupils, gleamed in the twilight, promising death to any who opposed him. I offer you this, Naruto began, his voice low but powerful. A world where power reigns supreme. No more false peace built on weak alliances. No more pretense of harmony between nations that despise one another. I will reshape this world into something stronger, something unbreakable. He raised his hand, and the air around him shimmered with power. I have given you a purpose, and soon, you will know true strength. The world will fall to its knees, and those who do not submit, will burn. The soldiers below him roared in approval, their voices merging into one great cry of bloodlust and fervor. Naruto's lips curled into a slight smile. The plan was already in motion. He turned and began walking back toward the fortress, his lieutenants following close behind. Among them was Kojiro, the rogue mist ninja who had become one of Naruto's closest advisors. Gaara has called for an alliance of the 5-cage, Kojiro reported, his tone cautious. They're preparing for war. Naruto stopped in his tracks, his gaze drifting toward the distant horizon. A low chuckle escaped his lips. Of course they are, he murmured. They're clinging to the last shreds of their power, hoping to stop me before it's too late. Kojiro hesitated for a moment before speaking. And what if they succeed in uniting? If the 5 great nations stand together, they could be a threat. Naruto's eyes flashed dangerously. Let them come. They will learn, as Konoha did, that nothing can stand in my way. The era of the cage is over. He resumed his stride, his cloak billowing behind him like a shadow swallowing the last light of the day. I will be the last ruler this world ever needs. The ruins of Konoha, an old friend. The night was dark, the moon obscured by thick clouds. Among the ruins of Konoha, a lone figure moved silently through the wreckage, his steps light but purposeful. The once great village had been reduced to little more than smoldering ashes and twisted rubble. But for him, it was still home. Sasuke Uchiha stood at the edge of what had once been the Hokage monument, his dark cloak billowing in the cold wind. His Rinnegan eye scanned the desolate landscape, searching for any signs of life. He had heard rumors of Naruto's madness, of the destruction he had wrought, but seeing it with his own eyes stirred something deep within him. So, it's true, he thought bitterly. Naruto has fallen. He had left Konoha after the 4th Great Ninja War to seek redemption for his past sins, wandering the world and learning more about the hidden secrets of the shinobi. He had hoped that, in his absence, Naruto would continue leading the world toward a brighter future. But now, Sasuke clenched his fists. He had once vowed to protect Naruto, to keep him from falling into darkness. But it seemed even he had failed. Naruto, Sasuke whispered, his voice barely audible over the wind. What have you become? His mind raced, memories of their battles flashing before him. Naruto had always been his rival, his equal. Together, they had overcome gods and monsters. But now, it seemed they were on opposite sides once more. A voice called out from behind him, breaking him from his thoughts. Sasuke. He turned, his Sharingan flaring instinctively. A familiar face stepped out from the shadows. Sakura. Her expression was one of pain, her eyes red from tears she had long since stopped shedding. But there was also determination there, a fire that had not yet been extinguished. Sakura, Sasuke said, his voice softer than usual. You survived. She nodded. Barely. But Konoha. It's gone. Sasuke glanced back at the ruins. I know. The two stood in silence for a moment, the weight of everything they had lost pressing down on them. Finally, Sakura spoke again. We need you, Sasuke, she said, her voice trembling slightly. Naruto. He's not the same. He's going to destroy everything if we don't stop him. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. I know. I've heard the rumors. It's worse than rumors. Sakura continued. He's building an army. Konoha was just the beginning. Sasuke turned to face her fully, his expression unreadable. What do you want me to do? Sakura hesitated for a moment, her eyes searching his face. You're the only one who might be able to stop him. Sasuke. The Naruto we knew. I don't think he's coming back. But maybe you can reach him before it's too late. Sasuke's gaze hardened. If he's beyond saving, then I'll do what has to be done. Sakura flinched at his words. But she didn't argue. She knew, deep down, that Sasuke was right. If Naruto couldn't be saved, then he would have to be stopped, no matter the cost. We can't do it alone, she said, her voice quiet. The others are gathering. Gaara's calling for an alliance of the 5 Kage. But even with all of us, Naruto's power is beyond anything we've ever seen. Sasuke looked toward the horizon, his Rinnegan flaring slightly. Power isn't everything. Naruto may be strong, but he's not invincible. He turned back to Sakura, his expression resolute. I'll join you. But make no mistake. If he can't be stopped peacefully, I will end this. One way or another. Sakura nodded, though her heart ached at the thought. I understand. As the two of them stood in the ruins of the village they had once sworn to protect, a new resolve took root. The world was at war. And once again, it was up to them to protect it. Naruto's plan unfolds in the depths of his mountain fortress. Naruto stood before a massive map of the world, his eyes scanning the various marks and symbols that represented the forces of the 5 great nations. His army had grown exponentially. But there was still more to do. His war was just beginning. Kojiro entered the room, bowing low. My lord. Reports have come in from our scouts. The 5 Kage are mobilizing. Gaara's alliance is taking shape. Naruto nodded, his gaze never leaving the map. Good. Let them come. I've been waiting for this. Kojiro hesitated for a moment before speaking again. There's something else. Sasuke Uchiha has been spotted. He's joined the resistance. At this, Naruto's eyes flickered with a strange emotion. Something dark. Something dangerous. Sasuke. He whispered, a faint smirk playing at the corners of his lips. So, my old rival has returned. He turned to face Kojiro, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. Let him come as well. In the end, it won't matter. Naruto's gaze shifted to the horizon, where the storm clouds gathered once more. The world will bow before me. Even Sasuke. The gathering resistance as the forces of the great nations began to mobilize. A secret meeting took place deep within the forests of the Land of Fire. Kakashi, Sakura, Shikamaru, and a handful of other survivors from Konoha stood around a makeshift table, studying maps and discussing strategy. Sasuke stepped forward, his presence commanding. Naruto won't hesitate. He'll come for the 5 Kage first, and then he'll crush anyone who stands in his way. Kakashi nodded. We need to be prepared for anything. We've never faced someone like him before. Shikamaru, ever the strategist, rubbed his temples. It's not just about numbers. Naruto's power, it's on another level. We need a plan that takes that into account. Sasuke's eyes narrowed. Then we hit him where it hurts. He may have power, but he's not invulnerable. The room fell silent as the weight of their task pressed down on them. They were preparing to fight their friend, someone who had once saved the world. But now, that same friend was threatening to destroy it. The resistance grew stronger. But so did Naruto's power. The world's fate was now hanging by a thread. And the moments of quiet before the inevitable conflict felt heavy, like the final breath before a storm. The Kage and their forces prepared for war, knowing that their enemy was once their friend, now transformed into a harbinger of doom. Each day brought them closer to the confrontation they could not avoid. The 5 Kage. Preparations for war. The atmosphere in the coalition's headquarters was tense. The room filled with top-level shinobi from across the nations. Maps were spread across the massive table, along with battle plans, scouting reports, and intelligence on Naruto's growing army. The air was thick with the weight of responsibility. Gaara stood at the head of the table, his normally calm demeanor replaced with a sharp focus that showed the gravity of the situation. We need to act quickly, Gaara said, his voice low but commanding. Naruto's forces are already on the move. If we don't intercept them soon, they'll overrun smaller villages and extend their influence even further. Each passing day strengthens his position. Beside him, the Raikage, Darui, leaned forward, tapping the map. We've got some of our fastest units on standby. We can launch a strike and slow them down before they reach the Land of Fire's heartland. Chojuro, the Mizukage, shook his head. A direct strike might provoke Naruto into retaliating immediately. We need to anticipate his moves. He's not just powerful, he's a strategist now. And we've seen what happens when we underestimate him. Kuritsuchi, the Tsuchikage, crossed her arms. So, what's the plan? We need to weaken his forces. But if we can't face him directly, then we'll need a better strategy. What about Sasuke? All eyes turned to the Uchiha, who stood slightly apart from the others. His face was as cold as ever, his Sharingan active as if he was seeing something far beyond the room. Sasuke, Gaara said, you fought Naruto more than anyone. You know how he thinks. What do you suggest? Sasuke's voice was quiet but edged with steel. Naruto will expect you to come at him with full force. He'll have prepared traps, counters, and strategies to cripple any conventional army. But he doesn't know that I'm here. He won't expect me. The room fell silent as Sasuke's words sank in. You plan to face him alone? Chojuro asked, his eyes wide with disbelief. That's suicide, Uchiha. You've seen what he's capable of now. Sasuke's Rinnegan pulsed with quiet power. It's the only way. I'm the only one who can get close enough to him. I know Naruto better than anyone. I'll draw him out. Sakura, who had been silent until now, spoke up. her voice trembling with barely contained emotion. Sasuke. If you go to him alone, he'll kill you. He's different now. You don't know if there's even a part of him left that can be reasoned with. Sasuke glanced at her, his gaze softening for a brief moment. I know what I'm doing. Sakura. Sakura clenched her fists, her heart heavy. You can't do this alone. Shikamaru, standing behind the table, finally spoke, breaking the heavy silence. Sasuke's right. Naruto's become something else. Something beyond what any of us can handle alone. But if Sasuke can draw him out, we'll have a chance to strike at his forces, to weaken his hold on them. Gaara nodded in agreement. If we can divide Naruto's attention between the battlefield and Sasuke, it might give us the edge we need. But we'll need to act fast. Sasuke's eyes glinted with determination. Leave Naruto to me. Naruto's army. The march of the wolves. The ground shook beneath the feet of Naruto's forces as they marched across the barren plains, their numbers growing with every village they passed. More rogue shinobi joined his ranks, enticed by the promise of power and the new world Naruto had promised them. Above them, storm clouds swirled ominously, a sign of the dark power that now radiated from their leader. Naruto stood at the front of his army, his dark cloak flapping in the wind. His eyes were fixed on the horizon, where the remnants of the Five Cages coalition waited. The anticipation of the coming battle stirred something deep within him, a sense of inevitability, of destiny unfolding before his eyes. Kojiro, his trusted lieutenant, approached him, bowing slightly. My lord. Our scouts report that the Five Cage have gathered their forces. They'll be ready to strike soon. Naruto's lips curled into a dark smile. Let them come. It doesn't matter how many they gather or how strong they think they are. This world belongs to me now. Kojiro hesitated for a moment, his voice low. There's one other thing. Sasuke Uchiha has been spotted with the resistance. He's joined their ranks. Naruto's expression faltered for just a moment, but then the smile returned, colder than before. Sasuke. So, he's finally come. He turned to face his army, his voice rising with power. Prepare for the final battle. The time has come to crush the last remnants of the old world. As the soldiers roared in approval, Kojiro watched his leader with growing unease. The man standing before him was not the Naruto Uzumaki of legend, the hero who had saved the world from the brink of destruction. This was something else entirely. Something darker and far more dangerous. The battlefield. Shadows converged days later. The two forces stood on opposite sides of a vast valley, the tension crackling in the air like lightning. The coalition of the Five Cage, shinobi from every major village, their forces united under a common banner, stood ready. Across from them, Naruto's army waited, their numbers vast and their resolve unshakable. At the center of it all stood Naruto himself, a figure that seemed larger than life, his presence casting a shadow over the battlefield. His eyes, glowing with otherworldly power, surveyed the opposing army with cold amusement. On the opposite side, Sasuke stood at the front of the coalition, his Sharingan blazing. Beside him were Gaara, Darui, Chojuro, Kuritsuchi, and the combined forces of the great nations. Sakura and Kakashi stood with them, their eyes fixed on the one they had once called a friend. Naruto's voice rang out across the battlefield, clear and commanding. So, this is what you've gathered to oppose me? A pitiful collection of relics from a world that's already dead. Sasuke stepped forward, his eyes locked onto Naruto. This ends today, Naruto. Naruto's smile faded, and for a moment, something flickered in his eyes, something old, something familiar. But it was gone as quickly as it had appeared, replaced by the cold, unyielding determination that had consumed him. You still think you can stop me, Sasuke? Naruto asked, his voice calm but dripping with malice. You don't understand. I'm not fighting for peace anymore. I'm fighting for something greater, something this world needs. Sasuke's hand moved to his sword, his gaze unwavering. You're wrong, Naruto. What you've become, it's not what the world needs. You're destroying everything we fought for. Naruto's eyes narrowed. Then you leave me no choice. Without warning, the battlefield erupted into chaos. Naruto's forces surged forward like a tidal wave, their battle cries filling the air as they charged toward the coalition's lines. The shinobi of the great nations moved to meet them, clashing in a storm of steel and jutsu. The ground trembled beneath the weight of the battle, and the sky darkened as chakra flared on both sides. Sasuke wasted no time. He moved through the battlefield like a shadow, cutting down enemy soldiers with precision and skill. His eyes were locked on one target, Naruto. Naruto, standing atop a hill overlooking the battlefield, watched the carnage unfold with cold detachment. He raised his hand, and dark tendrils of chakra began to gather around him, forming into a monstrous shape. Sasuke, Naruto whispered, his voice filled with both regret and resolve. If you insist on standing in my way, then you'll be the first to fall. With a flick of his wrist, Naruto unleashed the full force of his power. The ground beneath him cracked and splintered as dark chakra exploded outward, creating a massive shockwave that tore through the battlefield. Shinobi on both sides were thrown into the air, their bodies sent flying like ragdolls. But Sasuke was ready. His Rinnegan flared to life, and in an instant, he vanished from sight, reappearing directly in front of Naruto with his sword drawn. The two rivals clashed with a force that shook the very earth, their chakra colliding in a brilliant flash of light. For a moment, everything seemed to freeze. Time itself seemed to bend under the weight of their power. And then the real battle began. The battlefield echoed with the sounds of clashing steel and cries of battle as Sasuke and Naruto fought at the center of the chaos. Their movements were a blur, each strike and counter a testament to their years of rivalry and friendship. The air around them crackled with raw energy, a reminder of the burdens they both carried. As the two former comrades clashed, memories flooded Sasuke's mind, images of training together, sharing dreams, and fighting side by side against overwhelming odds. Each blow he landed felt heavy with the weight of what they had once been. But as he faced Naruto now, he saw only a shadow of the friend he had known. The darkness that enveloped Naruto felt like a palpable force, choking out all traces of light and hope. You lost yourself, Naruto. Sasuke shouted, parrying a brutal kick aimed at his midsection. This isn't you. Naruto grinned, a twisted smile that sent chills down Sasuke's spine. I've never felt more like myself. Sasuke. You just don't understand what true power is. The ground beneath them cracked as they clashed again, Naruto's fists imbued with dark chakra colliding against Sasuke's blade, which shimmered with the power of his Rinnegan. The shockwave from their fight sent debris flying, scattering the surrounding combatants. The coalition struggled as Sasuke and Naruto battled. The rest of the coalition struggled to hold their ground against Naruto's army. The once united front was fracturing under the weight of despair and fear. Hold the line, Gaara shouted, summoning a wave of sand to push back the oncoming horde. The sand swallowed several rogue shinobi, but the relentless tide seemed unending. Darui fought alongside him, lightning crackling around his fists. We need to regroup. We can't let them break our formation. Kuritsuchi, the Tsuchikage, fired off multiple earth jutsu, attempting to slow the enemy's advance. If we lose focus, it'll be the end of us. We have to keep the pressure on. But in the back of her mind, doubt lingered. Naruto had always been the strongest of them all. What if they were not enough to stop him? Sasuke's desperation. The clashing continued as Sasuke poured everything he had into his strikes. He had fought against powerful opponents before, but this was different. Naruto was not just strong, he was relentless. His attacks fueled by something dark and unfathomable. Each time Sasuke parried a blow, he felt the weight of Naruto's power pressing down upon him. Sasuke. Naruto taunted, his voice dripping with malice. Do you really think you can save me? This is who I am now. You were too weak to embrace the darkness. Sasuke's expression hardened. No? You've let it consume you. You're not just fighting for power. You're destroying everything we built together. The words hung heavy between them. And for a fleeting moment, Naruto hesitated, his eyes flickering with something that resembled doubt. But it was gone as quickly as it had come, replaced by a fury that ignited within him. Enough of this. Naruto shouted, unleashing a torrent of dark chakra that surged around him like a storm. The force sent Sasuke reeling, but he quickly regained his footing. activating his Rinnegan to counter. With a swift movement, Sasuke summoned multiple shadow clones, each armed and ready to attack. They charged toward Naruto, who responded with a dark wave of chakra, obliterating several clones instantly. But Sasuke wasn't deterred. He pushed forward, weaving through the remnants of his clones to get closer. Knowing he needed to reach Naruto before it was too late. A ray of hope. Meanwhile, Sakura and the other Kage fought fiercely alongside their forces, their eyes fixed on the battlefield where Sasuke and Naruto clashed. "Look!" Kakashi shouted, pointing toward the center of the chaos. "Sasuke is holding his own. If we can just give him enough time." "Time isn't something we have," Kuretsuchi yelled, casting another defensive jutsu as Naruto's forces pressed forward. "We need to strike before they overwhelm us." But just as despair threatened to seep into their hearts, a flash of light erupted from the far side of the battlefield. The armies paused momentarily as they turned to see a familiar figure standing against the encroaching darkness. "Hinata Hyuga! Hinata!" Sakura cried, her heart racing. The Byakugan activated. Hinata stood at the edge of the battlefield, her expression fierce and unwavering. "I won't let you destroy everything we've fought for, Naruto." With a series of precise strikes, Hinata unleashed her gentle fist technique, knocking back several of Naruto's forces. Her fierce determination and strength sparked something within the coalition, reigniting hope. The true battle begins. Sasuke seized the moment, pushing his advantage as he leapt at Naruto. "You have to remember who you are. We were friends, brothers in arms." Naruto's eyes darkened. "Brothers? That's a weak bond. Power is all that matters now." As the two engaged in a deadly dance of chakra and steel, Sasuke felt the burden of their past weighing heavily upon him. He had sworn to protect Naruto from himself, but now, it felt like he was fighting against a force of nature. "Then let's see how powerful you truly are," Sasuke yelled, channeling all his chakra into one final attack. He summoned his Susanoo, a colossal manifestation of his will, its ethereal blades shimmering with energy. Naruto's eyes widened momentarily, but he quickly composed himself, gathering dark chakra to counter. "You think that can stop me? I'll show you true power." The clash of their energies was cataclysmic, the ground shaking violently as their jutsu collided, creating a massive shockwave that sent both armies reeling. The battlefield itself became a chaotic maelstrom of energy, light, and darkness swirling around the two former friends, each unwilling to back down. A moment of clarity as the dust settled from their monumental clash. Sasuke's Susanoo flickered and wavered, but he remained resolute. He locked eyes with Naruto, and for a brief moment, he saw a glimmer of the old Naruto, the friend who had dreamt of being Hokage, who had believed in the bonds of friendship. "Naruto," Sasuke pleaded, his voice carrying across the battlefield. "Fight this darkness. Remember your promise. Remember who you are." Naruto hesitated, a flicker of confusion crossing his features. I don't want to go back to being weak," he shouted, the conflict within him evident. "You're not weak," Sasuke responded fiercely. "You're the strongest of us all. But this power is consuming you. You're becoming a monster. The world needs you to be its hero, not its tyrant." For a heartbeat, the world fell silent. Even the battling armies paused, as if time itself held its breath, watching the confrontation unfold. In the tense silence of the battlefield, Naruto's expression flickered between rage and confusion, the weight of Sasuke's words echoing in his mind. The dark energy surrounding him seemed to waver, as if the bond they had once shared still had the power to reach through the darkness. "What do you know about power, Sasuke?" Naruto growled, his voice strained. "You never understood what it meant to be weak. You never knew the pain of losing everything." "I do know pain," Sasuke replied, his voice steady, unwavering in the face of Naruto's turmoil. "I've lost everything too, but I chose to rise above it." "You can still choose to fight for the light. This isn't the way." Naruto took a step back, the darkness around him flickering as memories of their shared past surged to the forefront of his mind. He saw visions of laughter, friendship, and the promise of a better world they had both once fought for. But those memories were quickly overshadowed by the shadows of his recent choices. the alliances he had forged and the violence he had unleashed. You think you can change me? You think you can save me? Naruto's voice trembled, the emotional weight of his words thick with desperation. I'm not the same person anymore. I have power. I can change the world. Sasuke seized the moment, pushing forward with renewed determination. Power without purpose is meaningless. Naruto, you have to fight for something, not just to dominate. The coalition's rebirth. The rest of the coalition watched in awe and horror as the two titans clashed, their energies intertwining and creating shockwaves that rippled through the battlefield. Hinata, standing firm with the other Kage, felt the tremors of their fight deep within her soul. We need to support Sasuke, Hinata said, her voice rising above the din of battle. If we can break through to Naruto, we might be able to save him. Kakashi nodded, a determined glint in his eye. Everyone, regroup. We're not just fighting against Naruto, we're fighting for him too. If there's any chance to reach him, we have to show him we're still here. With that, the coalition rallied, pushing back against Naruto's forces. Lightning and fire danced across the battlefield as jutsu erupted from every direction. Each shinobi fought with a newfound sense of purpose, their hearts filled with hope that they could save their friend. The clash intensifies back on the front lines. Sasuke could feel the tide of battle shifting around him. The more he fought, the more he felt the darkness surrounding Naruto beginning to crack. It was as if his words were piercing through the veil, reaching the heart of the friend he had once known. You're stronger than this, Naruto, Sasuke shouted, unleashing a series of swift strikes. You can't let this power consume you. Fight back. As if responding to Sasuke's call, Naruto momentarily faltered, his fist hesitating in the air. But what if I don't want to be weak anymore? He whispered, the words escaping his lips before he could stop them. You're not weak. You're a hero. Sasuke pressed, lunging forward with renewed vigor. You saved the world. You brought peace to the shinobi nations. Don't throw it all away. The power swirling around Naruto flared violently. And for a moment, the two friends were locked in a fierce battle of wills. The energy crackled as they exchanged blows, both pushing themselves to their limits. With a swift maneuver, Naruto unleashed a massive Rasengan infused with dark chakra, sending it spiraling towards Sasuke. But Sasuke reacted quickly, channeling his Rinnegan to counter with a Susanoo-infused defense. The explosion that followed lit up the sky, sending shockwaves through the battlefield and forcing both armies to stagger back. In that blinding light, Sasuke saw something in Naruto's eyes. A flicker of the old Naruto he had known. A moment of vulnerability as the dust settled. Naruto staggered, panting heavily. The shadows around him pulsed like a living entity, threatening to engulf him. Sasuke seized the moment, rushing forward, his voice a desperate plea. Naruto, you don't have to fight alone. We're here. I'm here. We can face this together. Naruto's expression twisted in conflict, and for a brief moment, he seemed almost fragile. You don't understand, he shouted, his voice cracking. I can't go back. I've made my choices. But those choices don't define you. Sasuke countered, stepping closer, his heart racing. You still have a chance to choose again. Choose to be the hero we all need. Choose to fight for something greater than yourself. As he spoke, a powerful surge of emotion washed over Sasuke. Memories flooded back, their shared dreams, their struggles, and their triumphs. He saw the boy who had fought against all odds, who had once dreamed of becoming Hokage for the sake of others. You are not alone, Naruto, Sasuke shouted, his voice piercing through the chaos. I'm here to fight beside you. Don't let the darkness win. A choice made. The darkness surrounding Naruto flickered, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, he felt something within him shift. The memories of their shared laughter and battles surged forth, drowning out the insidious whispers that had fed his rage and despair. The shadows began to recede, and Naruto's expression softened, revealing the boy who had once believed in friendship and bonds. Sasuke. But before he could finish, a monstrous howl erupted from the dark depths of his power, roaring in defiance. The shadows lashed out, seeking to consume him, and Naruto felt himself being pulled back into the abyss. No, he shouted, struggling against the darkness. "I won't let you take me." But the dark power retaliated, sending waves of raw energy surging through him. The battlefield erupted into chaos once more as the dark tendrils threatened to consume everything in their path. Sasuke, seeing the struggle within Naruto, knew he had to act quickly. "Together? We can do this together." He reached out, extending a hand toward Naruto, hoping to reach him before it was too late. The heart of the matter as the chaos swirled around them. The power of their shared memories clashed with the encroaching darkness. The cries of battle faded into the background as the two stood at the precipice of their past, a powerful connection bridging the distance between them. "Remember our promise?" Sasuke shouted, desperation flooding his voice. "Remember what we fought for?" With a tremendous effort, Naruto fought against the shadows, feeling the warmth of Sasuke's words wrap around him like a lifeline. For the first time in what felt like forever, he felt the weight of his choices lift. If only for a moment. I want to remember," Naruto whispered, tears streaming down his cheeks as he fought against the darkness. "I want to believe in us again." The two locked eyes, and for a fleeting moment, the bond they had once shared shone brightly through the shadows. The memories of their friendship surged within Naruto, illuminating the darkness like a beacon of hope. With one final push, Naruto reached out, grasping Sasuke's hand. "Help me," he cried, his voice a mix of anguish and hope. The turning tide as their hands touched. A blinding light erupted from their connection, pushing back the encroaching shadows. The battlefield trembled as the power of their bond surged forth, washing over the armies like a tidal wave of hope. The dark energy recoiled, shrieking as it began to dissipate. Naruto's eyes widened in shock as the darkness unraveled, the once invincible power that had consumed him now fading into nothingness. Around them, the coalition watched in awe as Naruto's figure began to change. The monstrous aura surrounding him shrank back, revealing the familiar face of the boy they had once known. You're back," Sasuke breathed, a mix of relief and joy flooding his heart. With a roar, the darkness evaporated into wisps of smoke, leaving behind only the familiar chakra of their friend. The battlefield fell silent, the tides of war shifting as Naruto stood before them, looking weary but resolute. The aftermath in the wake of the powerful moment. The armies hesitated, unsure of what to do next. Many of Naruto's followers looked on in confusion, unable to comprehend the shift in their leader. Sasuke stepped forward, still holding onto Naruto's hand. "He's back. He's still our friend." Naruto, breathing heavily, looked around at the assembled shinobi. I'm sorry," he said, his voice filled with remorse. "I let the darkness take over. I forgot what it meant to fight for something other than power." As he spoke, the remnants of his once mighty army looked at him with uncertainty, their resolve beginning to waver. The energy of Naruto's friends surged around him, their conviction rekindling hope within them. Gaara stepped forward, his expression solemn but firm. "We're willing to forgive, Naruto. But you must understand the cost of your actions. Power must be wielded with purpose, not for dominance." Hinata joined him, her voice steady. "We all make mistakes, but it's how we choose to move forward that defines us." Naruto nodded, tears welling in his eyes. "I promise. I'll fight for our bonds, for the people I care about. I won't let the darkness win again." The path forward as the coalition slowly regrouped, a renewed sense of camaraderie began to fill the air. The realization that Naruto was back united them, and they prepared to face the remnants of the battle that had ravaged their world. Sasuke stepped back, releasing Naruto's hand. "You're not alone anymore, Naruto. We're all in this together." With the combined strength of their friends, Naruto faced the remaining forces still loyal to the darkness. His heart steadying as he prepared to fight not just for power but for the world he cherished. "Together," he said, a fierce determination igniting in his chest. "We will rebuild. We will protect what we hold dear." And as the sun broke through the clouds above, illuminating the battlefield with a warm, golden light, the united shinobi stood ready to fight. The shadows may have lingered, but they had found their way back to hope, ready to reclaim their future. The sun rose higher in the sky, casting a golden glow over the battlefield. The air, thick with the scent of smoke and the remnants of battle, began to feel lighter. As Naruto stood alongside his friends, a profound sense of determination filled his heart. With his dark power subdued, he turned to face the remaining forces that had once stood beside him. "I know I've betrayed your trust," he began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "But I want to fight for you now. I want to fight for a future we can all share." The loyal shinobi who had once followed him in his quest for power now stood divided. Uncertainty etched on their faces. Whispers spread like wildfire among the ranks. "What if he turns on us again?" one rogue shinobi muttered, gripping his weapon tightly. "But what if he's changed?" another countered, glancing at the determined figure of their former leader. He fought against the darkness itself. Hinata stepped forward, her Byakugan flaring to life as she looked out at the hesitant crowd. "Naruto has faced the darkness and emerged stronger. He chose to stand with us, not against us. We can rebuild together." Gaara nodded, stepping beside her. "In times of despair, we must unite. The real strength of a shinobi lies not in their power alone but in the bonds they forge with others. Let us show him that we believe in second chances." As the murmurs of doubt began to fade, Naruto felt hope swell within him. He reached out, his voice firm and unwavering. "I will fight alongside you all. I will protect the bonds we share. And I will make sure that darkness never consumes me again." The final confrontation with the coalition rallying behind him. Naruto turned his gaze to the remnants of the Dark Army still lingering at the edge of the battlefield. Their faces were twisted with confusion and fear. The power that had once fueled their resolve now flickering like a dying flame. Sasuke stepped beside Naruto, a glint of determination in his eye. "We don't have to fight them all," he said, his voice low but firm. "Let's offer them a choice. Just as we did with you, Naruto." Naruto nodded, his heart racing as he stepped forward, channeling his chakra to project his voice. "Listen to me," he shouted, his words echoing across the battlefield. "I know many of you followed me into darkness. But it doesn't have to end this way. We can unite against a common enemy. We can forge a new future together." The remaining forces shifted, uncertainty written across their faces. Some clutched their weapons, still caught in the web of fear and rage that had once consumed them. Others hesitated, their expressions softening as they recalled the bonds they had forged alongside Naruto. A choice for redemption. A tall figure stepped forward from the ranks, an imposing presence among the remaining forces. "What makes you think we can trust you again, Naruto?" he called, his voice booming. "You are the one who led us into darkness." Naruto took a deep breath, steadying himself. "I won't ask you to trust me blindly. I made mistakes, and I've hurt those I cared about. But I've learned from those mistakes. I've fought against the darkness within me. If you choose to follow me now, I promise to protect you and this world we share. We can find redemption together." The atmosphere shifted as the shinobi exchanged glances, doubt and hope intertwining. Slowly, one by one, they began to lower their weapons. It was a tentative step, but it marked the beginning of a new path. "I fought beside you once," another rogue shinobi said, stepping forward. "I remember what it felt like to believe in something greater than power. If you're willing to fight for us now, then I will follow you." A ripple of agreement spread through the ranks as more voices joined in. The shadows that had once engulfed them began to fade, replaced by the light of possibility. "United we stand." Seeing the tide turn, Naruto felt a surge of hope rush through him. "Together, we can create a world where no one has to face the darkness alone. We'll stand united against any threat that seeks to tear us apart." With renewed purpose, the coalition stood side by side, their resolve unbreakable. The remnants of Naruto's Dark Army now faced a choice. A chance to join a brighter future or to cling to the shadows that had once held them captive. As the sun broke free from the clouds, the golden light illuminated the battlefield, casting away the remnants of darkness. The alliance, strengthened by shared purpose, prepared for what lay ahead. A new threat emerges just as the coalition began to breathe a collective sigh of relief. A new threat emerged on the horizon. From the shadows of the forest surrounding the battlefield, a figure cloaked in darkness stepped forward, emanating a malevolent aura that sent a chill through the air. The figure raised a hand, and a sinister smile curled on his lips. "So, The legendary Naruto Uzumaki has returned. How quaint. Sasuke stepped forward. His stance defensive. Who are you? What do you want? The figure laughed. A cold, hollow sound that sent shivers down their spines. I am a harbinger of chaos. A remnant of the darkness you thought you defeated. You think you can rebuild and create a new world? I'm here to remind you of your failure. The coalition braced for what was to come. Their newfound resolve tested as the dark figure unleashed a wave of energy, engulfing the battlefield in shadow. Naruto's heart raced, the weight of their situation settling in. We won't let you destroy what we've built, he shouted, stepping forward alongside Sasuke and the rest of the coalition. We are stronger together. The battle for the future as the darkness surged toward them. The coalition joined hands, forming a protective barrier infused with their combined chakra. The power of their bonds radiated outward, pushing back against the encroaching shadows. Sasuke unleashed his Rinnegan, summoning the power of his Susanoo once more. We will not let fear dictate our future. The dark figure sneered, eyes narrowing in defiance. You may have united for now, but the darkness is insatiable. You can never truly defeat it. With those words, he launched an attack. The very essence of darkness manifesting as tendrils that snaked toward them, seeking to consume their light. But the coalition stood resolute, their hearts intertwined in a shared determination. Together, Naruto shouted, channeling all of his energy into a powerful Rasengan. We will show you the strength of our bonds. With a collective surge of chakra, the coalition countered the dark figure's attack. Light and darkness clashed once more, filling the battlefield with a brilliant explosion of energy. A future forged in light as the dust settled. The coalition emerged, standing firm against the remnants of darkness. The figure had been forced back, but the battle was far from over. Breathing heavily, Naruto looked at his friends, his heart swelling with pride. No matter how dark it gets, we will fight for each other. We've overcome the shadows before, and we can do it again. The coalition rallied around him, their spirits lifted by the promise of a brighter future. Each shinobi stood united, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. And as the sun rose higher in the sky, the dawn of unity illuminated the battlefield, casting away the shadows of doubt and despair. As the coalition prepared for the looming confrontation with the dark figure, the air was thick with tension. The remnants of the dark army were slowly being drawn back toward the light, yet the new threat loomed larger than ever. The coalition needed to act fast, for every moment wasted could give the dark figure time to gather his strength. The air crackled with energy as Naruto stood at the forefront, flanked by Sasuke and the other Kage. We've faced darkness before, he said, his voice steady despite the uncertainty. This time, we will face it together. We cannot let our fears control us. Sasuke turned to the coalition, his Rinnegan glowing softly. We need to divide our forces. Some of us can flank from the left while others keep the pressure on the right. I'll take care of the center with Naruto. The key is to keep him distracted and off balance. Gaara nodded, raising a hand. I can use my sand to create barriers and shields. We can protect each other while pushing forward. We must not let him take us by surprise. The other Kage chimed in, their voices harmonizing with determination. They began strategizing, creating a solid plan that would maximize their strengths while guarding against the shadows that threatened to consume them. The first assault as they set their plan into motion, Naruto felt a sense of unity wash over him, invigorating his spirit. The coalition had come together not just as allies, but as a family bound by shared struggles and dreams. With a powerful leap, Naruto launched himself toward the dark figure, the chakras swirling around him like a fiery aura. This ends now, he yelled, his voice echoing across the battlefield. The dark figure met his advance with a mocking laugh. You think your little band of misfits can defeat me? You are merely delaying the inevitable. With a wave of his hand, he unleashed a torrent of dark energy, a storm of shadows that billowed forth, threatening to consume everything in its path. But Sasuke was ready. Now, he shouted, summoning his Susanoo, its ethereal form radiating a brilliant light. The defensive barrier shielded Naruto from the onslaught of darkness, and he pressed forward, his determination unwavering. Rasengan. Naruto roared, channeling the energy into his signature jutsu. With the power of the coalition behind him, he hurled the Rasengan at the dark figure, the light illuminating the battlefield like a beacon of hope. A clash of powers, the dark figure recoiled, but not before erecting a wall of shadows to absorb the attack. The collision sent shockwaves rippling through the air, shaking the ground beneath their feet. "You're stronger than I anticipated," the figure said, his voice laced with surprise. "But it won't be enough to stop me," he countered with a wave of darkness that surged toward the coalition, engulfing everything in its path. The cage quickly formed a line, their powers combining to create a barrier that held the darkness at bay. Hinata, standing at the back, focused her Byakugan on the dark figure, trying to pinpoint any weaknesses. "There's something. He's relying on that shadow to sustain his power," she observed, her voice steady. "If we can disrupt it, we might be able to weaken him." Naruto turned, determination blazing in his eyes. "Then we need to divide his attention. Everyone, stay close. We'll take turns attacking him." Drawing him away from the shadows, the coalition rallied together, moving in a coordinated effort. Each shinobi leapt into action, launching attacks that forced the dark figure to spread his attention thin, defending against multiple assaults at once. The power of bonds as the battle raged on. Naruto felt the warmth of his friend's chakra flow through him. He remembered the countless battles they had fought together, the bonds they had forged in the fires of hardship. In that moment, a surge of inspiration struck him. "We can do this. We're stronger when we're together. Let's show him the power of our bonds." With renewed energy, he summoned the strength of the tailed beasts, infusing his chakra with the essence of unity. "Tailed beast bomb," he shouted, gathering a massive sphere of energy in his hands. Sasuke nodded, channeling his chakra to augment Naruto's attack. "I'll use my Rinnegan to focus the energy. We can amplify it." As the two combined their powers, the light began to expand, pushing back the darkness with a force that felt unstoppable. The dark figure glared at them, his expression shifting from confidence to fear. "You think you can defeat me with friendship?" he scoffed, though the tremor in his voice betrayed his uncertainty. "Not just friendship," Naruto shouted, his heart racing as he unleashed the combined attack. "This is our resolve. Our dreams. We fight for each other." The tailed beast bomb surged forward, a radiant sphere of light and hope that engulfed the dark figure. For a moment, time seemed to stand still as the explosion of energy erupted across the battlefield, illuminating the night sky. A glimmer of hope when the dust settled. The coalition found themselves standing amid a landscape transformed. The darkness had receded, leaving behind the remnants of the dark figure's shadow, now diminished and flickering. The coalition had taken the first step toward victory, but they knew the battle was not over. The dark figure staggered to his feet, his expression one of rage and disbelief. "You? How could you?" he sputtered, fury radiating from him. Sasuke stepped forward, determination etched on his face. "You underestimated the strength of our bonds. You may have power, but we have something far greater: each other." The dark figure clenched his fists, fury boiling within him. "You may have won this round, but I will return. The darkness will never be extinguished." And with that, he vanished into the shadows, leaving behind a lingering sense of dread, aftermath and reflection as the coalition caught their breath. A sense of relief washed over them. They had faced the darkness and emerged victorious, but the specter of their enemy lingered in the air. Naruto turned to his friends, his heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you, everyone. We fought together, and we proved that light can overcome darkness. But we must remain vigilant. He will return." Hinata stepped forward, placing a hand on Naruto's shoulder. "And when he does, we will be ready. We have each other, and that is our greatest strength." Gaara nodded in agreement. "We will rebuild what was lost and ensure that our bonds grow stronger. Together, we can face whatever challenges come our way." As the sun began to set on the battlefield, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had faced the shadows and triumphed, but the road ahead would require unity and resilience. A vision for the future. The coalition gathered around Naruto, each of them carrying the weight of their past struggles but united by a shared hope for the future. We need to rebuild our villages and strengthen our alliances, Naruto said, addressing the group. We cannot allow fear to dictate our actions. Together, we can create a world where everyone can live in peace. As they began to make plans for the future, Sasuke stepped forward. And we must prepare for the next threat. This won't be the last time we face darkness. We need to train and grow stronger. Not just as individuals, but as a united front. With a collective sense of resolve, the coalition began to discuss their plans, ideas flowing freely as they worked together. The warmth of friendship filled the air, each voice adding to the tapestry of hope that enveloped them. Naruto felt a smile tug at the corners of his lips. The battle against the darkness had not only tested their strength but had also reaffirmed their bonds. A new dawn as night descended upon the battlefield. The stars twinkled overhead like countless eyes watching over them. The coalition began to disperse, heading back to their respective villages, their hearts filled with a newfound determination. Naruto looked at the sky, the weight of his past still heavy but tempered by the light of his friends. He had faced the darkness and emerged not just as a leader but as a friend, a brother, and a protector. The road ahead would be long, but with his friends by his side, he knew they could overcome any challenge. Together, they would face whatever came next, their bonds shining brighter than any darkness that threatened to engulf them. And with that thought, Naruto walked forward, ready to embrace the dawn of a new era, hand in hand with those he cherished most. The sun broke over the horizon, bathing the world in warm light as Naruto prepared to return to Konoha. The coalition had successfully pushed back the darkness, but the battle had left its scars, both on the land and in the hearts of those who had fought. As he walked alongside Sasuke, the remnants of their recent struggle echoed in the silence. Each footstep felt heavy with the weight of unspoken words. "What's next for us, Naruto?" Sasuke asked, breaking the silence that hung between them. Naruto turned to face his friend, determination igniting in his gaze. "We rebuild, Sasuke. But we also train. That dark figure won't give up easily. If he returns, we need to be ready." Sasuke nodded, his expression thoughtful. "We need to gather intel, too. If he's connected to something larger, we must know what we're dealing with. The last thing we need is to be caught off guard again." Hinata approached them, her Byakugan activated, scanning the area as they walked. "I can help with scouting. I'll keep an eye out for any unusual activity. We must ensure the villages are safe." As they continued their journey, the weight of their recent battle lingered in the air. Each village they passed showed signs of the conflict, the ruins of homes, the scars on the earth that marked the violence they had endured. But amid the destruction, there was hope. People began to rebuild, their spirits unbroken despite the trials they had faced. A gathering of allies upon reaching Konoha, Naruto was greeted with a mixture of relief and concern. The villagers had anxiously awaited news, their hearts heavy with worry. As he entered the village, a roar of cheers erupted, the people celebrating their hero's return. But Naruto could see the lingering fear in their eyes, the memories of the chaos still fresh. He climbed atop the Hokage monument, raising his hands to calm the crowd. "I know you've all been through a lot, but I promise you, we will make this village stronger than ever. We will face whatever comes our way." Together, the cheers rang out again. But Naruto could sense the tension that still lay beneath the surface. After the celebration, he called for a meeting of the Kage in the village's council chamber. The urgency of their situation demanded a united front. As the Kage gathered, the atmosphere shifted to one of serious contemplation. "We need to discuss our next steps," Gaara said, his voice steady. "The dark figure we faced is a threat. But there may be others lurking in the shadows." Naruto nodded, his gaze sweeping across the table. "Sasuke and Hinata have offered to scout the surrounding areas for any signs of trouble. I want everyone to keep an eye out for anything unusual. We can't afford to be caught off guard again." The whisper of the pastas the Kage discussed strategies. Naruto's mind wandered back to the dark figure they had faced. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning, that the darkness they had fought was part of something much larger. Something that threatened not just their villages but the entire world. When the meeting concluded, Naruto lingered in the chamber, his thoughts a whirlwind. He felt a presence behind him and turned to see Kakashi leaning against the wall, arms crossed. "Something on your mind, Naruto?" Kakashi asked, his tone casual but knowing. Naruto sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Yeah, I can't shake this feeling that we're not done fighting. That dark figure. He mentioned something about a larger force. What if there are more of them?" Kakashi nodded, his expression serious. "It's a possibility. The world is vast, and there are many who covet power. We've faced threats before, but this could be different. We need to prepare." "How do we prepare for something we don't even understand?" Naruto asked, frustration creeping into his voice. "By training, gathering allies, and understanding our enemy," Kakashi replied. "Knowledge is just as powerful as strength." Naruto looked out the window, the sun setting in the distance. "Then that's what we'll do. We'll uncover whatever secrets lie in the shadows and be ready for whatever comes next." Forging new alliances with a renewed sense of purpose, Naruto set out to form alliances beyond Konoha. He knew that they needed every ally they could muster to face the challenges ahead. Gathering his closest friends, Sasuke, Sakura, Hinata, and Shikamaru, they discussed their plans. "We should reach out to the other villages," Shikamaru suggested, his brow furrowed in thought. "If there are new threats on the horizon, they need to know. A united front is our best defense." Naruto nodded, the fire of determination igniting in his chest. "Right? We can hold a summit to discuss our strategies and share intelligence. If we work together, we'll be stronger." Sasuke crossed his arms, a thoughtful expression on his face. "We should also send scouts to investigate the areas where the dark figure might have originated. If there are more like him, we need to know." As they laid out their plans, a sense of camaraderie filled the room. They had weathered storms before, but this time, it felt different. This time, they were stronger, more united than ever. The journey begins the next morning. Naruto set out with a small group, determined to visit the leaders of the other villages. As they traveled, Naruto could feel the weight of their mission pressing on his shoulders. He understood the importance of what they were about to do. The fate of their world could rest on these alliances. Upon reaching the land of water, they were welcomed by Maid Terumi, the Mizukage, whose vibrant personality contrasted with the serious nature of their visit. "Naruto, it's good to see you," Mei said with a smile, though it quickly faded as she sensed the gravity of the situation. "What brings you here?" Naruto wasted no time. "We need your help, Mei. A dark figure has emerged, and we believe it could threaten not just Konoha but all the villages. We need to unite and prepare for whatever may come." Mei's expression shifted to one of concern. "A dark figure? We've heard whispers of disturbances in our waters. It seems the shadows are creeping closer to us all." "Exactly," Naruto replied, feeling the urgency of the moment. "We need to work together to understand what's happening and to prepare. Can we count on your support?" Mei nodded, her resolve firm. "Of course. We will stand with you, Naruto. The land of water will not shy away from this fight." Rallying the clans from there, they continued their journey, visiting the other villages, Suna, Iwa, and Kumo. Each leader echoed Mei's sentiments, pledging their support. The coalition grew stronger, not just in numbers but in spirit, as they forged new bonds that transcended past conflicts. But the road was not without challenges. Some villages were reluctant to join forces, still wary of past grievances. Shikamaru took it upon himself to negotiate, reminding them of the greater threat that loomed in the shadows. "You may have your differences," he reasoned with one hesitant leader, "but this isn't just about you. This is about everyone's survival. If we don't stand together, we risk losing everything we've fought for." Slowly but surely, they began to sway the hearts and minds of those who remained uncertain. With every village that joined their cause, Naruto felt the weight of hope lift from his shoulders. A dark alliance, but not everyone was eager to see this unity flourish. Hidden in the shadows, the dark figure observed their movements, his anger boiling beneath the surface. He had underestimated Naruto and the coalition's strength, and now he felt a burning desire for revenge. In a dark chamber filled with flickering candles, the figure summoned his allies, other remnants of darkness who had been cast aside in the wake of Naruto's rise. "They think they can unite against me?" he snarled, his voice dripping with malice. They will pay for their arrogance. As he plotted his next move, shadows began to coalesce around him, forming grotesque figures that seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. Each one was a soldier, willing to fight and die in the name of chaos. The world will know my wrath, he vowed, a wicked smile creeping across his face. And this time, they will not escape the darkness. A storm brewing as the coalition prepared for their summit. Naruto felt the tension in the air. A storm brewing on the horizon. He gathered his friends in Konoha, laying out the plans for the upcoming meeting. We've made incredible strides. But we must stay vigilant, Naruto warned, his expression serious. We don't know how the dark figure will respond to our united front. We need to be ready for anything. Sakura nodded, determination in her eyes. We'll train harder than ever. We can't afford to be caught off guard again. Exactly, Sasuke added. We need to sharpen our skills and strengthen our strategies. I'll work on new jutsu that can counter the darkness. The group dispersed to prepare, each one filled with a sense of purpose. They knew the road ahead would be treacherous, but they were united in their resolve to face whatever lay ahead. The calm before the storm days passed as they trained and prepared for the summit, the air filled with anticipation. Naruto felt a mix of excitement and anxiety as he watched the village come together, each person contributing to the preparations. But deep down, he could sense the unease in the air, like a silent harbinger of chaos. Whispers of the dark figure's return spread like wildfire, and the coalition remained on high alert, knowing that the peace they had fought for was fragile. As the day of the summit approached, Naruto gathered with his friends atop the Hokage monument, gazing out over Konoha. No matter what happens, we will face it together, he said, his voice filled with conviction. We've come too far to let fear dictate our future. Sasuke stood beside him, his expression resolute. We'll stand firm against whatever darkness comes our way. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, Naruto felt the strength of their bonds encircle him like an unbreakable chain. He understood that the true battle was not just against darkness, but also to protect the light that they had built together. A prelude to darkness, but unbeknownst to them, the dark figure was not idle. As the summit drew near, he prepared to unleash a wave of chaos that would challenge everything they had fought to protect. He would sow discord among the coalition, pitting them against each other. The time for vengeance was at hand, and the world would soon witness the true power of the shadows. As Naruto and his friends stood on the precipice of a new beginning, they could not yet see the storm that loomed just beyond the horizon. The day of the summit dawned bright and clear, but a sense of foreboding lingered in the air. Shinobi from all the allied villages gathered in Konoha, their faces a mix of hope and apprehension. Naruto stood at the forefront, a beacon of determination. But his heart raced as he sensed the tension. As he welcomed the leaders of the allied villages, each one took their place at the table. The mood was somber. Everyone understood the gravity of their situation. The coalition was strong, but the threat of the dark figure loomed like a storm cloud overhead. Thank you all for coming, Naruto began, his voice steady. We stand at a crossroads. Together, we can face the darkness that seeks to tear us apart. The room echoed with murmurs of agreement, but the undercurrent of fear was palpable. Mei leaned forward, her expression serious. We've all felt the disturbance in our lands. Reports of shadowy figures have been increasing. What if this dark figure is not alone? Naruto nodded, recalling the dark figure's menacing threats. We believe he has allies, others who thrive in chaos. We must work together to gather intelligence and prepare our defenses. Tension rippled through the room as they discussed strategies. The Kage exchanged ideas, emphasizing the importance of communication and cooperation. Shikamaru outlined plans for joint training exercises, ensuring everyone was prepared for the worst. A sowing of doubt unbeknownst to the coalition. The dark figure was already at work, weaving a web of deception. He moved silently, using his shadows to infiltrate the gathering, spreading discontent among the shinobi. Whispers began to circulate, instilling doubt in the hearts of those present. Did you hear? Konoha is hoarding resources. One shinobi murmured to another, their voices low but insidious. They think they can take all the glory for themselves. The second responded, a frown etched on their face. What if they turn on us once the threat is dealt with? As the rumors spread like wildfire, a rift began to form within the coalition. Trust eroded, suspicions festered, and the fragile unity that had taken so long to build started to crack. The dark figure reveled in the chaos he was causing, confident that he could turn the allies against one another. He smiled in the shadows, watching as friendships and alliances began to fray. The summit's turning point. As the summit progressed, Naruto noticed the tension in the room. Leaders exchanged glances, their body language tense, and the camaraderie they once shared felt strained. He stepped forward, raising his voice above the murmur. "Everyone, listen," Naruto said, his voice unwavering. "We cannot let fear and doubt tear us apart. We're stronger together, and the only way we'll succeed is by trusting each other." His words fell on mixed ears. Some nodded in agreement, while others shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Sasuke leaned closer to Naruto, concern etched on his face. "Something's wrong. We need to address the whispers before they grow louder." Hinata, standing beside them, nodded. "Perhaps we should open the floor for everyone to voice their concerns. It might help alleviate the tension." Naruto considered this and took a deep breath. "All right. Let's address any worries openly. We are allies, and we must trust one another if we're going to face this threat together." As they opened the floor, the discussions quickly turned heated. Accusations flew, and the air became thick with distrust. "You think you can protect us while hiding your true intentions?" One leader shouted, eyes narrowed in suspicion. Another countered, "If Konoha thinks it can dominate this alliance, we'll be nothing but pawns in your game." Naruto's heart sank as he watched the unity they had fought so hard to build crumble before his eyes. This was exactly what the dark figure had hoped for. A dark scheme revealed outside the summit. The dark figure convened with his shadowy allies, unseen by the coalition. He smiled as he listened to the chaos unfolding within. "Let them argue," he hissed, his voice echoing in the darkness. "The more they fight amongst themselves, the weaker they become. Soon, they'll turn on each other, and I will claim victory." One of his allies, a figure draped in shadows, spoke up. "And what if they unite against us? We need a stronger plan." The dark figure waved his hand dismissively. "They are too consumed by doubt to stand as one. We will sow discord until they're nothing but a fragmented memory. And when they fall, we will rise from the ashes." With a snap of his fingers, shadows danced around him, forming dark tendrils that slithered away to spread his influence, ready to deepen the rift within the coalition. The battle for unity back in the summit room. Naruto and his friends worked tirelessly to quell the rising tide of hostility. But no matter what they said, doubt had taken root, and anger began to boil over. "This is a waste of time," a disgruntled leader shouted, slamming a fist on the table. "We need to focus on our own villages. Why should we risk everything for Konoha?" Frustration surged within Naruto. "This isn't about any one village. If we don't work together, we'll all fall." The darkness doesn't discriminate. But the more he spoke, the more divided they became. Shikamaru's voice cut through the chaos. "Listen. The more we fight, the stronger our enemy becomes. We need to trust one another. We've faced darkness before, together." The room fell silent as everyone took a moment to reflect. Naruto seized the opportunity. "Think about everything we've been through. We've defeated Akatsuki, faced Madara, and worked together to bring peace. We cannot let doubt destroy that." Slowly, some leaders began to nod, remembering the strength they had found in unity. But others remained skeptical, their trust hanging by a thread. The echoes of betrayal, just as it seemed a fragile peace might be restored. The doors to the summit burst open, and a group of shadowy figures stormed in, their dark energy suffocating the room. The dark figure emerged, cloaked in shadows, a triumphant smile on his face. "What a lovely gathering you have here. Shall we liven things up?" Panic erupted as the cage leapt to their feet, ready to defend against the intruders. Naruto clenched his fists, his heart racing as he sensed the darkness swirling around the figure. "Stay back," he shouted, channeling his chakra. "We can fight this together." But the damage had already been done. The seeds of doubt had been sown, and as the dark figure launched his attack, the leaders hesitated, glancing at one another uncertainly. "What are you waiting for?" the dark figure taunted. "Do you trust one another enough to fight back? Or will you crumble like the weaklings you are?" With that, he unleashed a wave of darkness, sending it crashing into the assembly. The attack shattered the tense atmosphere, scattering the cage in every direction. The fight for unity. Naruto gritted his teeth, a surge of determination rising within him. "We cannot let him win. Everyone, stand together." Sasuke activated his Rinnegan, preparing to counter the darkness. "Don't let him sow discord among us. We've fought for this moment. We can't back down now." The cage began to regroup, the realization of their predicament dawning on them. They were allies, and they needed to fight as one. As they focused their chakra, the air buzzed with energy. Mei unleashed her water release, creating a wall of mist that cloaked the allies. "We can't let him divide us." The cage rallied together, each one drawing on their powers, forming a united front against the encroaching darkness. But the dark figure was relentless. "You think your bonds can save you? You are nothing without trust." He called forth shadows to strike. But this time, the coalition pushed back with renewed vigor. A fight for trust as Naruto charged forward. He felt the warmth of his allies at his back. The shadows lashed out, but they responded with a whirlwind of elemental jutsu. Gaara summoned a wall of sand to protect his allies, while Sakura unleashed her strength to counter the dark figure's minions. "We can do this!" Naruto yelled, his voice echoing through the chaos. "Together, we're unstoppable." The cage, fueled by Naruto's spirit, fought back fiercely. They had seen the darkness, and now they stood united against it. Each attack they unleashed harmonized with the others, creating a symphony of power that began to push back the darkness. But the dark figure was not finished. "You may have momentarily thwarted me," he snarled, "but I will return, stronger than before." With that, he melted into the shadows, leaving behind the remnants of chaos. Aftermath and reflection. As the dust settled, the cage stood together, breathless and battered but undeniably stronger. The summit had transformed from a gathering of distrust into a battle for unity, and they had emerged victorious. Naruto turned to his allies, his heart swelling with pride. "You all fought brilliantly. We showed him that we are stronger together." Sasuke nodded, his expression thoughtful. "But we need to remain vigilant. This won't be the last we see of him. We need to heal the rift he created." Hinata stepped forward, determination shining in her eyes. "Let's work on strengthening our bonds. We must trust one another if we're going to face whatever darkness lies ahead." As they gathered to strategize for the future, Naruto felt a renewed sense of hope. The dark figure may have sought to tear them apart, but in the end, he had only strengthened their resolve. The dark figure's return. In the depths of the shadows, the dark figure seethed with anger, his plans thwarted but not defeated. "They think they can unite against me. I will bring them to their knees." He summoned his shadowy allies, their twisted forms swirling around him. "It's time to strike again. But this time, we will shatter their bonds and leave them broken." With a wave of his hand, he unleashed dark energy, spreading it across the lands. "Let the darkness reign. Soon, they will be consumed by their fears and betrayals." And as the sun set on Konoha, the winds of change whispered through the air, a warning of the darkness that was yet to come. In the aftermath of the battle at the summit, Konoha was alive with activity. While the leaders of the coalition worked diligently to mend the rifts created by the dark figure's machinations, an uneasy tension lingered like a shadow over their efforts. As Naruto surveyed the village from the Hokage monument, he felt the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. The unity they had fought to achieve seemed fragile, and the dark figure's lingering presence made him uneasy. The whispers of doubt were still echoing among the shinobi, and he knew they had to act quickly to heal the cracks before they widened. A call to action. Naruto gathered his friends in a secluded area near the training grounds. Sasuke, Sakura, Hinata, and Shikamaru stood with him, each of them wearing expressions of concern. "We need to address the situation head-on," Naruto said, his voice firm. "We can't let fear take root again. We should hold a series of joint training exercises with the other villages to strengthen our bonds." Shikamaru nodded thoughtfully. "That's a good idea. But we need to be careful. The moment they feel even the slightest hint of betrayal, they might turn on each other again. Sakura chimed in. I can organize medical teams to ensure everyone is healthy and feeling secure. Healing both physically and mentally is essential. Hinata added. And we should include everyone in these exercises. Not just the cage. If everyone participates, it might help foster a sense of unity among the villages. Sasuke crossed his arms. A contemplative look on his face. We can't underestimate the dark figure. He will come at us again. And we need to be prepared for anything. Naruto nodded. His resolve hardening. Then we'll make this work. We'll show him that the strength of our bonds is unbreakable. The training begins. The next few days saw an influx of shinobi from all corners of the alliance. They filled Konoha, eager to engage in training that would bolster their skills and fortify their relationships. The air buzzed with energy as laughter and camaraderie echoed through the village. Naruto led the first training session, his enthusiasm infectious. Let's show everyone what we can do together. Team up with someone from a different village. And let's see how we can improve each other's techniques. As the shinobi paired up, Naruto felt a surge of hope. This was the unity they needed. And he believed they could overcome the doubts that had threatened to tear them apart. But as they trained, the dark figure watched from the shadows, his eyes gleaming with malice. He had his own plans to sabotage their efforts. A planting of deceit late at night. The dark figure slithered through the village, using his shadows to cloak himself. He slipped into the quarters of the allied shinobi, sowing discord and confusion. He whispered doubts into the ears of unsuspecting shinobi, twisting their perceptions. You think Konoha has your best interests at heart? They're only using you to gain power. You're nothing but pawns in their game. His influence spread like a poison, insidiously igniting resentment and fear among the allies. While some shinobi were steadfast, others began to question their loyalties, and the seeds of betrayal were being planted. The training exercises intensify. As the training exercises continued, Naruto felt the positive momentum building among the allied villages. The shinobi were beginning to forge connections, sharing techniques, and learning from one another. But not everyone was convinced. During a break, Naruto overheard a heated argument between two shinobi from different villages. You're just here to take our resources. Why should we trust you? One shouted, fists clenched. That's not true. We're all in this together. The other pleaded, but doubt had already settled in. Naruto approached, sensing the rising tensions. Hey, everyone, let's take a step back. We're here to fight for our future, not to tear each other apart. We need to remember why we're united. As he spoke, he noticed the hesitance in their eyes. They were struggling to shake off the dark figure's influence, and he realized that his words alone might not be enough. An unlikely betrayal days passed, and the dark figure's whispers took root more deeply than Naruto had anticipated. During one training session, an unexpected betrayal occurred. One of the shinobi he had believed to be a loyal ally suddenly turned against the coalition. In the midst of a sparring match, the shinobi unleashed a forbidden jutsu, creating chaos among the participants. Why should we work together when we can gain power for ourselves? The shinobi sneered, and the shock of the betrayal rippled through the crowd. Stop! Naruto shouted, rushing forward. But it was too late. The dark figure's influence had manifested, and chaos erupted. Fighting broke out as allies turned against each other. The training grounds transformed into a battlefield, and Naruto felt his heart sink. The very thing they had been fighting against had come to pass. A rallying cry in the midst of the chaos. Naruto's voice rang out like a beacon. Everyone, listen to me. This isn't who we are. We fought hard to come together as allies. Don't let the darkness tear us apart. His words pierced through the clamor, and some shinobi paused, recognizing the truth in his voice. Sasuke moved beside him, his rinnegan glowing with power. Fight back against the shadows. Remember the bonds we share. Slowly, the tide began to turn as some shinobi recalled their purpose. They stood together, ready to confront the threat posed by the dark figure's influence. As the fighting subsided, Naruto looked around, his heart heavy with determination. We can't let this divide us. We have to fight against the darkness. Together. An unforeseen challenge. Just as they began to rally, the dark figure re-emerged. his laughter echoing through the training grounds. How quaint. You think you can stand against the shadows? You are merely puppets. And I am the puppeteer? Naruto stepped forward. Fists clenched. We won't let you manipulate us any longer. We are stronger than your lies. The dark figure smirked, extending his hands. Let's see if you can resist temptation. Shadows surged around him, forming monstrous figures that bore down on the shinobi. A united front as the monsters advanced. Naruto's resolve solidified. He called upon his allies, their shared determination igniting a flame of hope within him. Gather your strength. We will fight together, he shouted, channeling his chakra into a brilliant light. Sasuke, Sakura, and Hinata moved in unison, their techniques harmonizing in a display of power. The monsters surged forward, but the combined might of the allied shinobi formed a barrier of light, pushing back the encroaching darkness. Now! Naruto yelled, launching a Rasengan infused with the essence of their bonds. The attack collided with the dark figure, sending shockwaves through the ground. The final stand, but the dark figure only laughed, his shadows swirling to absorb the attack. You think this is over? Your unity means nothing against true darkness? Naruto felt a surge of anger rise within him. We won't let you take us down. We will stand united against you. As the shinobi rallied together, they charged forward, their chakra intertwining in a brilliant display of teamwork. Each strike echoed with the promise of their bonds, and the shadows began to falter. A glimpse of hope in the midst of the chaos. Naruto caught a glimpse of the allies he had fought to protect. They fought with tenacity and heart. And he felt a wave of hope wash over him. They were united, despite the darkness that sought to tear them apart. With one final push, they unleashed a powerful wave of chakra, overwhelming the dark figure. The shadows recoiled, and for a moment, silence fell over the training grounds. A moment of clarity as the dust settled. Naruto took a deep breath, the realization hitting him hard. We did it. We stood together. But before they could celebrate, the dark figure snarled from the ground, his form flickering. This is not the end. The seeds of betrayal have already taken root, and I will return to reap the consequences of your trust. With a final explosion of darkness, he vanished, leaving behind only the echoes of his threat. The road ahead, the shinobi gathered together, the weight of the battle still heavy on their hearts. They had won this battle, but the war against darkness was far from over. Naruto turned to his allies, determination shining in his eyes. We need to strengthen our bonds more than ever. We can't let doubt and betrayal take root again. Sasuke stepped forward, resolute. We need to be on guard. The dark figure will come back, and next time, we need to be ready. As the sun set over Konoha, casting a warm glow over the village, Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had faced darkness and emerged stronger, but the road ahead was fraught with challenges. With his friends beside him, he vowed to protect the bonds they had forged, no matter the cost. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over Konoha as Naruto and his allies regrouped in the Hokage's office. The atmosphere was thick with tension, the weight of their recent battle still heavy on their minds. Sasuke leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his expression a mix of concern and determination. We can't ignore the fact that the dark figure is still out there. And if he has allies, we could be facing a much larger threat. Naruto nodded, his brow furrowed. I agree. We need to gather information about him and his motives. If we can understand what drives him, we might find a way to defeat him once and for all. Sakura, sitting at the table, shuffled through a stack of papers. I've been looking into old records about similar figures in our history. There are mentions of dark beings who manipulate fear and distrust to weaken alliances. If this is a recurring theme, we need to be prepared. Hinata added softly. We should also focus on strengthening our bonds, both within our villages and with each other. Trust is our greatest weapon against the darkness. A journey through history. Naruto gathered his friends, the determination in his heart growing stronger. Then let's split up and research everything we can about this dark figure. We need to understand how to counter him. The group agreed, and Naruto headed to the village archives. A cavernous room filled with scrolls and books chronicling the history of the shinobi world. As he rummaged through the shelves, the weight of the past loomed over him. a reminder of the battles they had fought and the losses they had endured. He found a dusty scroll detailing ancient legends of dark entities that fed on chaos and despair. As he unrolled the parchment, he found the tale of a being called the Shadow Lord, a powerful figure who thrived on manipulating the fears of others, sowing discord among allies. As he read, a chilling realization settled in. The Shadow Lord was said to return when darkness overwhelmed the hearts of shinobi, feeding off their doubt and mistrust. The past has a way of repeating itself, Naruto muttered under his breath, a sense of urgency coursing through him. If they were to confront this dark figure, they needed to break the cycle. The search for allies meanwhile, Sasuke and Shikamaru ventured to the hidden sand village to seek out Gaara. As they approached the village, they noticed the usual warm desert air was replaced by an unsettling stillness. Gaara stood at the edge of the village, the wind tousling his hair. "You've come at a tense time. There's been unrest among our people. Whispers of betrayal and fear." Sasuke crossed his arms, concern etched on his face. "We've encountered the same issues in Konoha. There's a dark figure manipulating our allies. We need to unite our strengths to combat this threat." Gaara's eyes narrowed. "I've sensed the disturbance in the air. It feels as if an old darkness is awakening. We cannot allow fear to divide us again." Shikamaru nodded, his brow furrowed. "We need to create a plan to strengthen the bonds between our villages. The more we can trust each other, the harder it will be for this figure to manipulate us." The gathering storm back in Konoha. Sakura and Hinata worked tirelessly alongside the village's scholars, poring over historical records. They uncovered more accounts of the Shadow Lord, detailing how he thrived on division and fear, his power growing stronger as distrust spread. Sakura scribbled down notes, her eyes alight with determination. "We need to share this information with everyone. The more we know about our enemy, the better equipped we'll be to face him." Hinata nodded, her resolve strong. "If we can expose his tactics and remind everyone of our past victories, we might be able to counter his influence." As they continued their research, they felt the weight of their ancestors' struggles, drawing strength from their legacy. The idea that they weren't alone in this fight ignited a flicker of hope within them. A shattered trust days turned into weeks, and the training exercises continued. But the dark figure's whispers had not dissipated. Tensions simmered just beneath the surface. Small skirmishes broke out between shinobi from different villages, fueled by the dark figure's manipulations. Naruto could feel the atmosphere shifting, distrust growing like a weed among the once united forces. In the midst of a training session, he watched as two shinobi clashed, their tempers flaring. "What's happening?" Naruto shouted, rushing toward the fray. "We're supposed to be allies. You can't expect us to trust them." One shinobi retorted, his face contorted in anger. "They're not one of us." The dark figure's influence had taken hold, and Naruto felt his heart sink. This was the chaos they had fought to prevent. An urgent meeting desperate to restore unity. Naruto called for an urgent meeting with the Kage representatives from all allied villages. As they gathered in the main hall, the atmosphere crackled with tension. "Thank you all for coming," Naruto began, his voice steady but filled with urgency. "We've all sensed the unrest growing among our ranks. I believe the dark figure is preying on our fears, trying to divide us." Mei stood, her expression fierce. "We can't let him win. We need to expose his manipulations and remind everyone of the strength we have when we stand together." Sasuke added, "We should implement strict communication protocols between our villages. If we share information and work together, we can counter any lies he spreads." Gaara nodded in agreement. "We must show our people that we trust one another. Organizing joint missions might help to reinforce those bonds." As the discussions continued, Naruto felt a flicker of hope reigniting within him. They were beginning to come together, but they still had a long way to go. The dark figure's gambit unbeknownst to the allies. The dark figure watched from afar, his expression twisted in anger. "They think they can resist me? I will not allow it." In the depths of his lair, he summoned his shadowy allies, their forms swirling like smoke. "It's time to escalate the chaos. We need to expose their vulnerabilities and turn them against each other once and for all." He unleashed a wave of dark energy, sending it forth to infiltrate the villages, sowing further seeds of doubt. The shadows danced in the wind, whispering lies that would shatter the fragile trust the allied shinobi had fought to rebuild. The crisis unfolds as the dark figure's influence spread. The situation grew dire. Reports came in of skirmishes erupting across allied borders. Friendships that had taken years to forge began to fracture, leaving mistrust in their wake. Naruto paced the Hokage's office, frustration boiling within him. We need to do something. If we don't act now, we'll lose everything we've fought for. Sasuke, leaning against the wall, his arms crossed, frowned. We need to gather all the Kage again. We must confront this head on. They need to see the truth behind the darkness. Naruto nodded. Right. If we can bring everyone together and expose the dark figure's tactics, we might be able to break his hold on our allies. A call to arms that night. Naruto sent out urgent messages to all allied villages, calling for an emergency summit. As the leaders gathered once again in Konoha, the tension in the air was palpable. The Kage took their seats, their faces drawn with concern. Mei broke the silence. The situation has worsened. There are reports of betrayals and fights breaking out among our people. We must act swiftly. We've identified the source of this chaos, Naruto said, his voice unwavering. A dark figure is manipulating our fears and turning us against each other. We need to confront him together. As he spoke, he felt the weight of their gaze upon him. They were weary but willing to listen. Sasuke added, we need to expose his influence. We must remind everyone of our strength when united. Gaara spoke up, his voice steady. And we need to prepare for an inevitable confrontation. We cannot allow this darkness to consume us. A plan of action. The leaders discussed strategies. And as plans began to take shape, a renewed sense of unity blossomed within the room. They mapped out their next steps, focusing on open communication and cooperative missions to restore trust. Naruto felt a spark of hope ignite within him. This was their chance to reclaim what the dark figure sought to destroy. As they finalized their plans, a feeling of determination enveloped the room. The Kage shared stories of their villages, of victories won through unity and trust. They laughed, reminiscing about the bonds they had forged through countless battles. The dark figure's final play. While the Kage strategized, the dark figure plotted his next move. He could sense the allied shinobi rallying against him, and he was not about to let them succeed. I will break them, he hissed, dark energy swirling around him. Let's see how they handle true despair. He extended his hand, summoning shadows that surged forth, ready to unleash chaos upon the world. The calm before the storm as the allied shinobi prepared for the looming confrontation. Naruto felt a sense of calm wash over him. They were united in purpose, ready to face whatever darkness awaited them. He looked around at his friends. Their resolve mirrored in each other's eyes. No matter what happens, we fight together. We won't let the darkness take us down. As the sun rose, casting its first light over the village, the shadows receded, and for a moment, hope flickered brightly in their hearts. The day of the summit dawned with a palpable tension in the air. The sky over Konoha a swirling mix of gray and orange as the sun struggled to break through the clouds. Naruto stood at the window of the Hokage's office, looking out over the village he had sworn to protect. The allied shinobi would soon arrive, and with them, the weight of their combined hopes and fears. He could sense the undercurrents of anxiety swirling around the village like the storm clouds overhead. Would they truly stand united against the dark figure? Or would doubt and fear take root once again? A fractured unity as the leaders began to arrive. Naruto welcomed them with a determined smile. But he could see the tension etched on their faces. Gaara, Mei, Onoki, and the others took their seats at the large table in the war room, each one visibly weary. We must act quickly, Mei stated, her voice steady despite the uncertainty. Reports from our villages indicate that the dark figure's influence is growing. Skirmishes have erupted among our ranks. Shikamaru leaned forward, his brow furrowed in thought. If we don't confront this darkness now, it will spread like wildfire. We need to unify our forces and expose his lies. Onoki thumped the table, his voice booming. The longer we wait, the more power he gains. We need to show our strength. Naruto felt the fire of determination igniting in his chest. We can't let fear tear us apart again. We'll create a united front and counteract his influence. We'll remind everyone why we're fighting together. The plan unfolds as they began to strategize. The conversation flowed with fervor. They discussed various methods to reinforce trust among the villages, joint missions, sharing intelligence, and open forums where shinobi could voice their concerns and experiences. Sakura stood and addressed the room. We should also incorporate training sessions that focus on teamwork and cooperation. The more we work together, the harder it will be for the dark figure to manipulate us. Gaara nodded. And we should deploy reconnaissance teams to gather information about the dark figure's movements. Knowledge is our strongest weapon. The leaders agreed, their resolve strengthening as they pooled their ideas. With each passing moment, Naruto could feel the bonds between them solidifying, a testament to their shared commitment to standing against the darkness. An unexpected visitor just as they were finalizing their plans. A commotion erupted at the entrance of the Hokage's office. A figure burst through the door, panting and wide-eyed. It was a young shinobi from the Hidden Mist village. Clearly panicked. Hokage? Kage? We have a situation, he exclaimed, collapsing into a chair. The dark figure has attacked our village. We barely managed to fend him off, but his influence is spreading rapidly. The room fell silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air like a heavy fog. What do you mean? Naruto demanded, his heart racing. What did he do? The moment he appeared, shadows began to swirl around our village, sowing distrust among our shinobi. Friends turned against each other, and we could barely hold them back. Gather the information you have, Sasuke said, his expression grim. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with. The young shinobi nodded, pulling out a scroll and unrolling it on the table. He spoke of a coming storm, a darkness that would consume all. He's gathering power, and he intends to strike again. The storm approaches. Naruto felt his heart pound in his chest. We have to act now. If he's gathering power, we need to gather ours too. This isn't just about us anymore. It's about every village that stands against him. They quickly organized a plan of action, dividing the allied shinobi into reconnaissance teams, defense units, and those who would train the new recruits. As the leaders strategized, the urgency in the air escalated, a reminder that they were in a race against time. Sakura, now standing with renewed determination, spoke up again. I'll head a medical team to ensure that our shinobi are prepared for whatever comes next. We need to make sure that we can heal our allies as quickly as possible if he strikes again. Good idea, Naruto said, grateful for her leadership. We'll need everyone at their best if we're going to stand against this threat. The first assault as preparations unfolded. A palpable tension filled the air. Shinobi from every village worked side by side, pushing aside their fears in the face of a common enemy. But despite their efforts, whispers of doubt lingered. A few nights later, as Naruto and his allies rested in their respective villages, the dark figure made his move. The skies darkened, and shadowy tendrils stretched across the land like fingers reaching to snatch away hope. Konoha was the first to feel the impact. Screams echoed through the streets as shadows descended, twisting reality and turning friends against each other. The dark figure had unleashed his full power, and chaos erupted. Battle for Konoha. Naruto sprang from his sleep, instinct kicking in as he rushed to the window. The sight that greeted him was one of horror. The village was enveloped in darkness, shadows flickering like flames, distorting everything in their path. No, he shouted, racing toward the front lines. He could hear the sounds of battle, clashing steel, explosive jutsu, and desperate cries for help. As he emerged from the Hokage's office, he found his friends already fighting alongside their allies. Hinata was using her Byakugan to scan the area for enemies, while Sasuke unleashed lightning-infused jutsu, cutting down shadows as they lunged toward them. Together, Naruto yelled, summoning his chakra. We can't let him win. The allied shinobi rallied around him, their combined strength pushing back against the encroaching darkness. As they fought, Naruto felt the fear beginning to subside. They were united, and together they could overcome anything. Facing the dark figure through the chaos, the dark figure emerged, a silhouette against the swirling shadows. His laughter echoed, chilling and filled with malice. You think you can resist me? Your trust is your greatest weakness? Naruto clenched his fists, anger surging through him. You're wrong. Our bonds are our strength, and we won't let you tear us apart. With a surge of determination, he launched himself at the dark figure, surrounded by his friends. Together, they formed a formidable front, unleashing their combined jutsu with precision and purpose. But the dark figure countered, summoning shadowy creatures that twisted and writhed, intent on consuming them. You cannot win. Fear is a powerful weapon, and it will tear you apart from the inside. The battle rages on. The battle intensified, each side fighting fiercely for control. The allied shinobi pushed forward, their movements synchronized, embodying the trust and strength they had cultivated over the past weeks. Focus on your bonds, Sakura shouted, channeling healing chakra to a fallen ally. Remember why we're fighting. Naruto felt the weight of her words, a reminder of the purpose that had brought them all together. They fought not just for themselves, but for the future of their villages and the bonds they had forged through hardship and sacrifice. As they fought, shadows began to falter, retreating in the face of their unity. The dark figure's expression shifted from arrogance to anger, his power waning as the light of their bonds pushed back against the darkness. A turning point in the heat of battle. Naruto felt a shift within himself. The darkness had seeped into his mind, whispering doubts that he had fought to overcome. But now, he understood that the true strength of his bonds could never be extinguished. Everyone, he shouted, drawing on the energy of his allies. We're stronger together. Let's show him the power of our unity. With a fierce battle cry, he summoned the full extent of his chakra. Enveloping his friends in a brilliant light, Sasuke, Sakura, Hinata, and the others joined him, their chakra intertwining, creating a beacon of hope amidst the encroaching shadows. The dark figure's face twisted in horror as the light surged forward, pushing back the shadows and illuminating the battlefield. No, this cannot be. The final confrontation with renewed strength. Naruto and his allies surged toward the dark figure. Their combined jutsu, lightning, fire, and wind, coalesced into a singular attack, a manifestation of their bonds and trust. Rasengan! Naruto shouted, his voice ringing with determination. We won't let you win. As the attack collided with the dark figure, a brilliant explosion lit up the battlefield. The darkness shattered like glass, the shadows retreating into nothingness. The dark figure let out a piercing scream, a sound filled with rage and despair, before vanishing completely. The aftermath as silence fell over Konoha. The allied shinobi stood together, their hearts racing from the adrenaline of battle. They had fought through the chaos and emerged victorious. Naruto looked around at his friends, relief washing over him. We did it. We really did it. Sasuke nodded, a hint of a smile breaking through his usual stoic demeanor. But we must remain vigilant. Darkness can return at any time. Hinata stepped forward, her gaze firm. We will continue to strengthen our bonds. Together, we can face whatever challenges lie ahead. A new dawn as the sun began to rise, casting golden rays over the village. The shadows that had threatened Konoha receded, leaving behind a sense of hope and renewal. Naruto felt a profound sense of pride swelling in his chest. They had fought together, faced their fears, and emerged stronger than before. In that moment, he knew they could overcome anything. With determination, he turned to his friends. Let's make a promise. No matter what happens in the future, we'll always stand together. We're more than just allies, we're family. The others nodded, their spirits lifted as they united under a shared commitment to protect one another. As the dawn of a new day broke, Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose. They had faced darkness and emerged victorious, but he knew the journey was far from over. But for now, they would celebrate their triumph together. The celebration in Konoha was nothing short of a festival. The villagers came together to honor the victory over the dark figure, their laughter ringing through the streets. Lanterns floated in the air, illuminating faces filled with hope and joy. But amid the revelry, Naruto knew that this victory, while significant, was just one chapter in their ongoing story. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a warm glow over the village, Naruto found himself standing atop the Hokage monument, gazing out over Konoha. Sasuke joined him, leaning against the stone with an air of calm contemplation. "It's good to see the village at peace," Sasuke remarked, his eyes scanning the horizon. "But I can't shake the feeling that we haven't seen the last of that darkness." Naruto turned to his friend, sensing the weight of Sasuke's words. "I know what you mean. The battle may be over, but we need to remain vigilant. There are always forces out there trying to disrupt the peace we fought so hard for." Sasuke nodded, his expression serious. "And we can't forget about the whispers of betrayal and fear that still linger. We need to strengthen our bonds even further." An unexpected reunion as they continued their conversation. Sakura and Hinata approached, their faces bright with smiles. "Are you two brooding again?" Sakura teased, nudging Sasuke playfully. "Come on. It's a day for celebration. We should be enjoying this moment." Hinata added, her voice soft but firm. "We've all worked so hard together. Let's not let our worries overshadow our victory." Naruto grinned, feeling the warmth of their camaraderie. "You're right. Today is a day for celebration. We've proven that when we unite, we can overcome any darkness." Just then, a familiar figure approached, his demeanor serious but with a hint of a smile breaking through. It was Kakashi, the former Hokage and mentor. "I must say, I'm proud of all of you," he said, his voice laced with warmth. "You've grown into powerful shinobi and leaders. You faced the darkness together, and that speaks volumes." "Thanks, Kakashi-sensei," Naruto replied, his heart swelling with gratitude. "We couldn't have done it without the lessons you taught us." Kakashi chuckled, a glimmer of pride in his eye. "Just remember, being a leader means embracing the challenges that lie ahead. You have the strength to guide others." The call to unity as the celebration continued. Naruto proposed a toast, raising his cup high. "To friendship, unity, and the bonds we've forged. May we always stand together against any threat." The crowd echoed his sentiment, their cheers ringing out. Laughter filled the air, and for a brief moment, the weight of the world seemed to lift. But as the festivities wore on, Naruto's mind drifted to the future. Later that night, as the stars twinkled overhead, he gathered his closest friends around a fire in the village square. "I want to talk about what comes next," Naruto said, the firelight flickering in his eyes. "We've faced a great evil, but I know there are more challenges ahead. I want to ensure we're prepared for anything." Sasuke leaned forward, a serious expression on his face. "I agree. We've seen how quickly distrust can spread. We should consider creating a council of leaders from each village to maintain open lines of communication." "Good idea," Sakura chimed in. "That way, we can share information and strategies. We need to keep our allies informed and united." Hinata nodded, her gaze steady. "And we should hold regular training sessions that involve shinobi from all villages. It will help strengthen our bonds and build trust." A council is born over the following weeks. Naruto and the other Kage established the council, bringing together leaders from various villages. They met regularly to discuss threats, share intelligence, and reinforce their alliances. Each meeting was filled with fervent discussions, but the sense of unity among them grew stronger with each gathering. Naruto felt a sense of pride as he watched his friends work together, their voices echoing with conviction and purpose. One evening, as they gathered in the Hokage's office, Gaara spoke up. "I believe we should organize a joint training exercise. It would allow our shinobi to work together and build trust, while also preparing us for any potential threats." "Agreed," Mei replied. "We can simulate various scenarios, testing our ability to cooperate under pressure." Naruto nodded enthusiastically. "Let's set a date. This will be a great opportunity for us all." A festive training day as the day of the training exercise approached. The atmosphere buzzed with excitement. Shinobi from all the villages arrived in Konoha, ready to test their skills and forge new bonds. Naruto stood at the training grounds, looking over the gathered participants. Sasuke, Sakura, Hinata, and many others stood beside him, their expressions a mix of anticipation and determination. "Listen up, everyone," Naruto called out, his voice booming. "Today, we're here to strengthen our bonds and work as one. Let's show the world what we can accomplish together." The crowd cheered, their spirits lifted as the day unfolded. The training exercise begins. The training exercise began with a series of obstacle courses designed to test teamwork and communication. Participants were grouped randomly, encouraging them to work with shinobi they had never fought alongside before. Naruto paired up with a shinobi from the hidden sand, his determination to succeed evident. "We need to strategize. What's your strongest jutsu?" "Sand shield," the shinobi replied confidently. "We can use it to protect each other while we move forward." As they navigated the course, Naruto felt the thrill of collaboration. They encountered various challenges, working together to overcome each obstacle, and their laughter echoed through the training grounds. Unexpected challenges as the day progressed. The exercises grew more challenging, including mock battles that tested their ability to work as a unit. However, amid the laughter and camaraderie, tensions began to surface. During one of the mock battles, a team made up of shinobi from the Hidden Leaf and the Hidden Mist struggled to communicate effectively. Misunderstandings led to clashes, and frustration simmered beneath the surface. Naruto noticed the tension and stepped in, calling for a timeout. "Let's regroup and talk it out. We can't let miscommunication turn into conflict." As they gathered, he encouraged them to express their concerns. "Remember, we're all here to learn from each other. If we can't trust one another during practice, how will we stand united in battle?" Slowly, the tension eased as the shinobi began to share their thoughts and experiences. They laughed about their blunders, and the ice broke, allowing bonds to form amidst the chaos. The importance of trust. After the training exercises, the shinobi gathered for a debriefing. The atmosphere was filled with excitement and camaraderie as they shared their experiences. Naruto stood before them, pride swelling in his heart. "You've all done an incredible job today. But remember, trust is the foundation of our strength. The more we communicate and understand each other, the more powerful we'll become as allies." Sasuke added, "We must keep this momentum going. Training together should become a regular occurrence. The bonds we form here today will be our strongest weapon against any threat." A reflection on unity. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over Konoha, Naruto found a moment to reflect on the day's events. The laughter, the teamwork, and the bonds formed filled him with hope for the future. Sitting with Sakura and Sasuke, he felt a profound sense of gratitude. "We've come so far together," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "I know there will always be challenges, but as long as we stand together, we can overcome anything." Sakura smiled, her eyes shining. "And no matter how tough things get, we'll always have each other's backs." Sasuke nodded, a rare smile gracing his lips. "Exactly. Together, we can face any darkness that may come our way." A new threat emerges. But just as the evening began to settle, a shadow loomed on the horizon. The air grew heavy, and a chilling wind swept through the village. Unbeknownst to Naruto and his friends, a new threat was brewing. A figure cloaked in darkness, gathering strength in the shadows. In a hidden cave deep within the mountains, a sinister presence stirred. The dark figure had returned, even more powerful than before. He had witnessed the bonds forged in Konoha, and he was determined to shatter them. "Fools!" he hissed, his voice dripping with malice. "They think they can resist me? I will tear their bonds apart and plunge the world into chaos." With a wave of his hand, he summoned dark creatures, shadows twisted into monstrous forms, ready to unleash terror upon the unsuspecting shinobi. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over Konoha. But the vibrant colors of the day belied the darkness that was creeping ever closer. As the village settled into a peaceful evening, a tension hung in the air, palpable and unsettling. Naruto stood at the training grounds, watching his friends disperse after a long day of exercises. Despite the laughter and camaraderie, he could feel an undercurrent of anxiety threading through the village. "What's wrong?" Sakura asked, noticing his troubled expression as she approached him. "I don't know," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. "It's just, something feels off. We've worked so hard to build trust, but I can't shake this feeling that something is coming to test us." Sakura nodded, her brow furrowed. "You're right. We can't ignore the darkness that lurks in the corners of our world. We need to stay vigilant. Let's make sure we keep communication open with everyone," Naruto suggested, his resolve firm. The more we share our thoughts and concerns, the stronger we'll be. A gathering storm the following days brought an unsettling stillness. As news of the successful training exercise spread, villages began to celebrate their unity. But in the shadows, the dark figure watched and waited, plotting his next move. In the hidden mist, reports flooded in of strange occurrences, shinobi turning against one another, friendships fraying at the seams. The dark figure's influence was seeping into the hearts of the unsuspecting, planting seeds of doubt and fear. Back in Konoha, the council gathered again, the mood far more serious than during their last meeting. "We can't ignore the reports from the other villages," Shikamaru said, his expression grave. "There are whispers of distrust and fear spreading like wildfire. We need to act before it escalates." Naruto leaned forward, determination burning in his eyes. "We've fought against darkness before. We know how to stand together. We need to reinforce our bonds and remind everyone why we're allies. But how do we combat an enemy that thrives on fear?" Gaara asked, his voice steady. "The moment we show weakness, we risk losing everything we've built. We need to organize a summit," Sakura suggested. "An event where shinobi from all villages can come together, share their experiences, and strengthen their resolve against this darkness." Preparing for the summit with their plan in place, the council sprang into action. They began preparations for the summit, focusing on activities that would foster teamwork and trust. Naruto felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was their chance to bolster their alliances and ensure that the darkness would not divide them. Days passed quickly as shinobi from various villages arrived in Konoha. The atmosphere was filled with anticipation. But Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking a tightrope, teetering on the edge of something dangerous. As the day of the summit dawned, Konoha buzzed with activity. Stalls were set up, showcasing the strengths of each village, and games designed to encourage teamwork were organized. Naruto and his friends worked tirelessly to ensure that everything was in place. The summit begins. The day of the summit was filled with laughter and excitement as shinobi gathered in the village square. Banners hung from every building, each one representing the alliance of the 5 great villages. As Naruto took the stage, he surveyed the crowd. Faces from every village looked back at him, filled with hope and expectation. "Welcome, everyone," Naruto called, his voice ringing out across the square. "Today, we gather not just to celebrate our victory over the dark figure, but to reaffirm our commitment to one another. We stand as one, united against any force that seeks to divide us." The crowd erupted into cheers, their enthusiasm infectious. "Let's strengthen our bonds," he continued, a fire igniting within him. "Through understanding and teamwork, we can overcome any challenge." A festival of unity. As the festivities commenced, Naruto wandered through the various stalls, engaging with shinobi from different villages. He watched as children played games, their laughter ringing out like a sweet melody. At one stall, Sakura demonstrated her healing techniques, drawing a small crowd. "Remember, healing isn't just about physical wounds," she explained to the captivated audience. "It's about strengthening the spirit as well." Meanwhile, Sasuke shared combat strategies with shinobi from the Hidden Stone, deep in discussion about the best tactics for a coordinated defense. Hinata, surrounded by new friends, showcased her Byakugan, explaining its advantages and how it could aid their allies in battle. The excitement of sharing knowledge and forming new friendships filled the air with an electric energy. An unexpected disruption just as the atmosphere reached a high point of joy and camaraderie. A sudden chill swept through the crowd. The skies darkened, and an ominous shadow loomed over Konoha. "What's happening?" Naruto shouted, scanning the skies for the source of the disturbance. A figure appeared at the edge of the village, cloaked in darkness. The air crackled with energy as the dark figure stepped forward, a twisted smile playing on his lips. "I've come to remind you of your weaknesses," he boomed, his voice echoing across the square. "You think you can stand united against me? Look around you. Fear lurks in the hearts of every shinobi here." Gasps erupted from the crowd as the dark figure unleashed a wave of shadowy energy. It surged through the festival, enveloping shinobi in a thick fog of despair and doubt. Naruto felt the darkness pressing in around him, whispering insidious thoughts. "Are they really your allies? Will they stand with you when the time comes?" "No," he shouted, shaking his head violently. "We won't let you break us." A rallying cry. The crowd wavered, fear spreading among the gathered shinobi. Naruto felt the doubt creeping into his own heart. But he pushed it aside. He could not let the darkness win. "Everyone, listen to me," he called, trying to reach the hearts of those around him. "We've faced darkness before. And we will face it again. Trust in each other. Trust in the bonds we've forged." Sasuke stepped forward, his expression fierce. "We cannot allow fear to divide us. We must stand together. Now more than ever." As if responding to their words, the crowd began to murmur, voices rising in defiance against the dark figure's taunts. "Don't listen to him," Sakura shouted, her voice cutting through the fog of despair. "We are stronger together. We are allies. We are family." Hinata stepped up, her Byakugan activated. "Look at each other. We've fought for one another. And we will continue to do so." Naruto could feel the energy shifting. The fear that had gripped them was beginning to dissolve. Facing the darkness with a fierce roar, Naruto summoned his chakra, a bright light breaking through the darkness. "Let's show him the power of our bonds. Together, we can drive him back." With renewed determination, the shinobi rallied around Naruto. They formed a united front, their combined chakras shimmering in the air like a brilliant flame. "Rasengan!" Naruto shouted, launching himself toward the dark figure with a burst of energy. The dark figure sneered. But as Naruto collided with him, a blinding light erupted, pushing back the shadows and illuminating the area. "No! This cannot be!" the dark figure shrieked, trying to fend off the onslaught. With a final push, Naruto and his allies unleashed their attacks, a storm of light overwhelming the darkness. The aftermath as the light enveloped them, the shadows began to fade. The dark figure's expression twisted with rage and disbelief before he vanished into the air, leaving only silence in his wake. The villagers stood in awe, the thick fog of fear lifting. Murmurs of disbelief turned into cheers as they realized they had resisted the darkness once more. Naruto turned to his friends, relief washing over him. "We did it. We stood together." Sasuke nodded, a smile breaking through his usual stoicism. "But we must remain vigilant. This won't be the last we see of him." "We'll be ready," Sakura said confidently, her eyes shining with determination. "As long as we have each other, we can face anything." A new resolve. The summit continued, now filled with an even greater sense of unity and purpose. The darkness that had threatened to tear them apart only served to strengthen their resolve. As they celebrated their victory, Naruto felt a warmth in his heart. They were more than just allies, they were family, bound by their experiences and their commitment to protect one another. Later that evening, as the stars twinkled overhead, Naruto gathered with his friends once more. "Today proved something important," he said, looking around at their faces. "No matter how dark things may seem, our bonds will always shine brighter. We will face any challenge together." The others nodded in agreement, their hearts united in purpose. A quiet reflection. But as Naruto looked up at the stars, a nagging feeling remained in the back of his mind. The dark figure may have been defeated for now, but the shadows of doubt lingered. In the quiet of the night, he vowed to himself that he would protect the bonds they had forged. He would never let darkness take away the hope they had built together. As the village settled into a peaceful sleep, Naruto closed his eyes, determined to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With his friends by his side, he felt ready to confront the shadows of the future. The days that followed the summit were filled with renewed energy and determination. The shinobi of Konoha worked tirelessly to reinforce their alliances, engaging in joint training exercises and cultural exchanges with the allied villages. Yet, despite the outward signs of strength and unity, an unsettling silence loomed over Naruto's heart. He could feel the shadows of doubt creeping in, whispers of fear that seemed to echo from his past. One afternoon, while training with Sasuke, Naruto's mind drifted back to the struggles he had faced as a child. The pain of loneliness, the burden of being an outcast. It was a darkness that had shaped him but also forged his resolve. "You good, Naruto?" Sasuke asked, halting his movements and looking at his friend with a raised brow. "Yeah. Just thinking," Naruto replied, shaking off the memories. "About how far we've come. but also about the darkness that lingers. It's hard not to worry. Sasuke nodded, understanding all too well. We've faced darkness before. Remember when we fought against the Akatsuki? They exploited fear and manipulation just like this dark figure. We can't let it happen again. Right? Naruto agreed, determination igniting within him. We'll be stronger this time. We have each other. And we're ready for whatever comes next. A message in the wind later that evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the village in shades of orange and purple. Naruto was meditating on the roof of the Hokage Tower. The quiet allowed him to center his thoughts and gather strength. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew through the village, carrying with it a rustling sound that caught his attention. A scroll landed at his feet, inscribed with the symbol of the hidden leaf. Naruto picked it up, unfurling the scroll to reveal an urgent message. To the Hokage, we have received reports of unusual activity in the Land of Waves. Villagers are disappearing, and there are whispers of dark creatures lurking in the mist. We ask for your assistance in investigating these claims. Sincerely, Tazuna. Naruto's heart raced. Sasuke, Sakura, Hinata, he called, gathering his friends as he read the message aloud. We have to respond to this. The Land of Waves needs our help. Disappearing villagers? Sakura frowned, her concern evident. It sounds like something sinister is at play. We can't ignore this. I'll gather the others, Sasuke said, his eyes narrowing with determination. We need to form a team and investigate. If there's darkness lurking there, we have to confront it before it spreads. The team assembles within hours. A team was assembled, consisting of Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura, Hinata, and a few elite shinobi from Konoha, including Shikamaru and Ino. They gathered in the Hokage's office, reviewing the details of the mission. I'll send a message to Tazuna to let him know we're on our way, Naruto said, feeling the weight of leadership settle on his shoulders. We need to be prepared for anything. Let's also discuss strategies, Shikamaru suggested, leaning forward. We should analyze the situation before jumping into action. If villagers are disappearing, we need to understand why and how it's happening. Ino nodded. I can use my mind-body switch technique to gather intel on any potential threats. But I'll need backup in case something goes wrong. Then it's settled, Naruto declared. We'll head to the Land of Waves at first light. We need to protect the villagers and get to the bottom of this. A journey into the unknown as dawn broke. The team set out, crossing bridges and forests toward the Land of Waves. The atmosphere felt heavy, almost oppressive, as they traveled. The air was thick with tension. And the further they went, the more Naruto's instincts told him something was off. They arrived in the Land of Waves. The familiar sights of Tazuna's village greeted them with a mix of warmth and unease. The villagers seemed on edge, casting wary glances as they approached. Tazuna met them at the entrance, his face lined with worry. Thank you for coming, he said, his voice shaky. We've lost several villagers in recent weeks, and I fear there's something sinister lurking in the mists. We'll do everything we can to help, Naruto reassured him. Can you tell us where the disappearances have occurred? Tazuna nodded, leading them toward the fishing docks. Most of the villagers who have vanished were last seen near the river. They went to fish and never returned. Investigating the shadows, the team began their investigation at the docks, splitting into pairs to cover more ground. Naruto and Hinata worked together, while Sasuke teamed up with Sakura. Shikamaru and Ino scouted the area, their keen senses alert for any signs of danger. As they walked along the riverbank, Naruto could feel the tension in the air. Hinata, can you use your Byakugan to see if there are any unusual chakra signatures nearby? He asked. Of course, Hinata replied, activating her Byakugan and scanning the area. There are several chakra signatures in the water, but they seem to be faint. It's as if they're trying to hide. Let's investigate further, Naruto suggested, his curiosity piqued. We need to see what's causing this. As they moved closer to the river, the mist began to thicken, wrapping around them like a shroud. Naruto felt a chill run down his spine, a sense of foreboding that made him uneasy. Stay alert, he warned, glancing at Hinata. I don't like this. A confrontation in the mist suddenly. The mist began to swirl violently, and a deep voice echoed through the air. You shouldn't have come here. It boomed, sending a wave of fear rippling through the team. Out of the mist, dark shapes emerged, twisting and contorting into monstrous forms. The creatures had hollow eyes and grotesque features, their shadows stretching unnaturally in the dim light. Naruto gritted his teeth, adrenaline surging. We won't back down. Everyone, prepare for battle. As the creatures lunged forward, the team sprang into action. Naruto launched himself into the fray, using his shadow clones to distract the monsters. Shadow clone jutsu, he shouted, creating dozens of copies of himself. They swarmed the dark creatures, drawing their attention away from Hinata, who was focusing her Byakugan on their movements. Let me try something, Ino shouted from the sidelines. She took a deep breath, focusing her chakra. Mind-body switch technique. With her technique activated, she quickly attempted to take control of one of the creatures. But as she made contact, the creature writhed violently, breaking free from her grasp. Stay focused, Shikamaru called, strategizing on the fly. Ino, let's work together. Use your technique on a different one while I distract it. The fight for survival as the battle raged on. Naruto found himself locked in a fierce struggle with one of the dark creatures. It lashed out, its claws barely missing him as he ducked and dodged. Get off me, he yelled, delivering a powerful punch that sent the creature reeling. But even as he fought, he could feel the darkness seeping into his mind, whispers of doubt echoing once more. Are you strong enough to protect them? Naruto shook his head, forcing the thoughts aside. I am strong. I have my friends with me. Hinata charged in, striking the creature with precise, powerful blows. We can do this together, Naruto, she encouraged, her confidence igniting his spirit. With renewed determination, Naruto focused his chakra, channeling it into a powerful Rasengan. Rasengan, he shouted, launching it at the creature and colliding with it in a blinding flash of light. The creature howled, dissipating into a cloud of shadows as the rest of the team rallied together, coordinating their attacks with fierce precision. The final stand as the last creature fell. The mist began to clear, revealing the riverbank and the terrified villagers who had been hiding in fear. They emerged cautiously, their faces filled with a mixture of hope and disbelief. We did it, Naruto exclaimed, panting heavily. But we can't let our guard down. There could be more of them. As the team gathered, Tazuna stepped forward, relief washing over him. You've saved us. But what were those creatures? They were manifestations of darkness, Sasuke said, his expression serious. We need to find out where they came from and put an end to this threat once and for all. Agreed, Sakura added, determination shining in her eyes. We must uncover the source of this darkness before it consumes anyone else. Uncovering the truth later that evening, the team regrouped at Tazuna's house, poring over maps and discussing their next steps. We should investigate the surrounding areas, Shikamaru suggested, looking thoughtfully at the map. If the creatures are coming from somewhere, we need to find that location. Hinata frowned. But we need to be cautious. There could be traps or more creatures waiting for us. Naruto nodded, feeling the weight of their mission pressing on him. We'll divide into smaller teams to cover more ground. I want everyone to stay alert. As they laid out their plans, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The shadows felt alive, lurking just out of sight, waiting for the moment to strike again. A whisper in the darkness as the night deepened. Naruto found himself unable to sleep. He stood outside, gazing up at the stars, their light piercing through the darkness. Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed in his mind. You think you can win? You're but a child playing with fire. Who's there? He called out, scanning the area for the source of the voice. Your past is filled with shadows, Naruto. You cannot escape them. The voice was taunting, echoing from the depths of his memories. But he refused to give in. I won't let you manipulate me. I have friends who believe in me. You believe in illusions, the voice hissed. When the darkness comes for you, will they still stand by your side? Or will they turn against you? Naruto clenched his fists, frustration boiling within him. I won't let you win. My bonds are real, and I'll protect them. As the voice faded into silence, he took a deep breath, grounding himself. He knew he had to stay strong. Not just for himself, but for the people he cared about. The following morning dawned cold and gray. A stark contrast to the vibrant battles of the previous day. As Naruto gathered his team, he could sense the weight of uncertainty lingering in the air. The night had brought no relief. Instead, it had deepened his resolve to confront whatever darkness lay ahead. They assembled outside Tezuna's house, the villagers watching with a mix of hope and fear. Today, we investigate the areas where the creatures emerged, Naruto declared, looking at each of his friends. We need to figure out where they're coming from. Let's split into pairs, Sasuke suggested, his voice steady. We can cover more ground that way. Hinata and I will check the riverbanks while Sakura, Ino, and Shikamaru examine the forest. Naruto, you take Tezuna and check the docks for any signs of the creatures. Got it. Naruto replied, a sense of determination flooding his veins. Let's move out. The riverbanks. Naruto and Tezuna made their way to the docks, the sound of water lapping against the shore echoing in the cool morning air. The mist hung low, creating an eerie atmosphere that made the hairs on the back of Naruto's neck stand up. Is this where the villagers went missing? Tezuna asked, glancing nervously around. Yeah. We need to look for any signs, Naruto replied, scanning the area. Footprints, anything unusual. As they searched, Tezuna pointed toward the water. Look! There are ripples over there. Something is moving beneath the surface. Stay back. Naruto shouted, pushing Tezuna away as he concentrated his chakra. I'll see if I can bring it to the surface. With a focused shout, he called forth his chakra, summoning a powerful wave of energy. The water surged violently, and suddenly, a dark shape erupted from the depths, rising into the air. An abomination. The creature was unlike any they had faced before. Larger and more grotesque. Its body seemed to shift and writhe as if composed of shadow and despair. Its eyes glowed with a sinister red light, and a chilling laugh echoed through the air. Foolish shinobi, it roared, its voice resonating with malice. You think you can stop the inevitable? This land will fall to darkness. Naruto stepped forward, fists clenched. We won't let you harm anyone else. This ends now. The creature lunged at him, sharp claws extended. Naruto barely dodged, his heart racing. Tezuna, get back! Just as he was about to counterattack, a familiar burst of chakra surged through the air. Sasuke and Hinata arrived, just in time to join the fray. Raiden! Chidori! Sasuke shouted, his hand crackling with electricity as he launched toward the creature. He struck it hard, but the beast only staggered before retaliating, sending Sasuke flying back. Hinata! Naruto called out, watching as she activated her Byakugan, her eyes sharp with determination. Gentle fist! She shouted, darting forward to deliver a precise blow to the creature's core. But even as she struck, the dark creature seemed to absorb her attack, its form shifting like liquid. This isn't working. Hinata cried, frustration lacing her voice. It's like it's feeding off our chakra. A plan of attack. Then we need to hit it harder. Naruto declared, rallying his friends. Sasuke, can you hit it with another lightning jutsu while I distract it? Right. Sasuke grunted, gathering his strength again. Hinata, try to find its weak point. We need to finish this. The creature lunged at Naruto, but he sidestepped, summoning his shadow clones once more. Shadow clone jutsu. The clones flooded the area, overwhelming the creature and drawing its attention. While it was distracted, Naruto shouted, Sasuke! Now! Chidori! Sasuke screamed, focusing all his energy into a single powerful thrust. He charged forward, the electricity crackling violently as he aimed for the creature's heart. But just as he was about to make contact, the creature twisted away, dodging the attack. You think you can defeat me? It sneered, its voice dripping with mockery. I am darkness incarnate. The hidden strengths, don't give up. Hinata called, her voice cutting through the chaos. We're stronger than this darkness. Naruto could feel the fear creeping back into his mind, but he pushed it aside. We can do this. Together. He shouted, rallying his clones. With renewed determination, he focused his chakra, creating a swirling Rasengan in his hand. Rasengan, he called, launching the attack at the creature as it turned its attention back to him. The Rasengan connected, exploding with light and energy. For a moment, the creature faltered, its form flickering. What is this power? It screeched, reeling back. Now, Sasuke. Naruto shouted, pointing toward the creature. Chidori. Sasuke cried, unleashing his attack once more. This time, the combination of Naruto's Rasengan and Sasuke's Chidori hit the creature at once, causing it to howl in agony. But even as it writhed in pain, the dark shadows around it began to swirl, forming into new creatures that lunged at the team. A battle on two fronts. We can't hold them off forever. Ino shouted as she and Shikamaru joined the fight, a cluster of creatures trailing behind them. Stay together. Shikamaru strategized, forming hand signs. We need to create a barrier. Ino nodded, focusing her chakra to enhance their defenses. Mind-body switch, she called, controlling one of the creatures. Let's turn their power against them. With Ino's control, the creature lashed out at its companions, creating chaos among the dark forces. Perfect. Now's our chance. Shikamaru shouted, using his shadow possession jutsu to bind two of the creatures. Hinata. Attack. Hinata sprang into action, darting between the shadows with agility and precision. Gentle fist, she cried, targeting their chakra points and disrupting their flow. As the team worked together, Naruto could feel their bond strengthening with each blow. They were fighting not just for themselves, but for each other. And that made all the difference. The final push just as the tide seemed to turn in their favor. The dark creature roared, its form expanding as it absorbed the shadows around it. You cannot defeat me. I am the embodiment of fear. Fear is a lie. Naruto shouted, his voice steady. We are stronger together. And we will protect this village. With a final rallying cry, Naruto summoned all his remaining chakra. Everyone, follow my lead. Rasengan, he shouted, charging toward the creature once more. As he launched the attack, Sasuke and Hinata joined him, channeling their chakra into a collective strike. Chidori. Sasuke yelled, gentle fist. The energy exploded in a blinding light, engulfing the creature in a whirlwind of power. The dark shadows were dispelled, dissolving into nothingness as the light surged forward. Aftermath of the battle. When the light finally faded, the riverbank was still. The remaining creatures lay defeated, and the oppressive atmosphere began to lift. Tazuna stepped forward, his eyes wide with disbelief. You did it. You defeated them. We couldn't have done it without each other, Naruto said, looking at his friends with gratitude. This was a team effort. As the villagers emerged from hiding, a sense of relief washed over the area. The fear that had gripped them began to dissipate, replaced by hope. But we can't ignore the source of this darkness, Sasuke said, his expression serious. This isn't over yet. The search for answers. Later that evening, the team gathered in Tazuna's house, poring over maps and discussing their next steps. We need to find out where those creatures came from, Shikamaru suggested. There must be a source of this darkness lurking somewhere in the land of waves. Let's check the nearby caves, Tazuna suggested. I've heard rumors of strange sounds coming from that area. Naruto nodded, determination shining in his eyes. Then that's our next destination. We'll uncover the truth and put an end to this once and for all. As the team prepared for their next mission, Naruto felt a sense of unity among them. They had faced darkness together and emerged stronger. A lingering doubt yet, even as they planned. The whispers from the dark figure echoed in his mind. When the darkness comes for you, will they still stand by your side? He shook his head, trying to dispel the thoughts. He had to believe in the strength of their bonds. They would confront whatever awaited them in the caves, together. As the night deepened, he took a moment to reflect. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but he knew they would face it all as allies. With his friends by his side, he felt ready to confront the shadows, not just of the land of waves, but of his own past. The next morning, the team set out toward the nearby caves, their spirits buoyed by their recent victory but tinged with the awareness of the challenges that lay ahead. The sun shone bright, illuminating the path, but dark clouds loomed in the distance, as if nature itself was warning them of the trials to come. Stay alert, Sasuke cautioned as they approached the entrance to the cave. The mouth of the cave yawned before them, shrouded in shadows that felt almost alive. If the creatures are emerging from here, we need to be prepared for anything. Naruto nodded, gripping the hilt of his kunai. Let's stick together and move cautiously. We can't let our guard down. As they entered the cave, the temperature dropped noticeably, and the sounds of dripping water echoed eerily through the tunnels. Hinata activated her Byakugan, her eyes shining with determination. I can sense chakra fluctuations deeper inside. It feels chaotic. Then we should move quickly, Sakura said, her brow furrowing. The longer we stay here, the more vulnerable we become. The heart of darkness, they navigated the winding paths, guided by the pulsating energy that Hinata sensed. The air grew heavier with each step, and a strange, oppressive feeling enveloped them, gnawing at their resolve. What is this place? Ino murmured, glancing around nervously. It feels wrong. This is where the darkness breeds, Shikamaru replied, his expression serious. It's feeding off fear and despair. As they ventured deeper, the walls of the cave began to shimmer, shadows twisting and swirling around them. Suddenly, a chilling voice echoed through the tunnels. You have come to the heart of darkness, foolish shinobi. The voice seemed to resonate from every corner of the cave, reverberating in their minds. You are not prepared for what lies ahead. You think you can stop the tide of despair? Who are you? Naruto shouted, determination bolstering his voice. We're here to put an end to this madness. I am the embodiment of fear and chaos, the voice replied, a sinister chuckle following. I thrive on the shadows of your past, your doubts, and your insecurities. You are nothing against me. Facing the darkness within as the voice echoed, dark figures began to materialize around them, resembling twisted versions of their past foes. Naruto's heart raced as he recognized familiar faces, old enemies, failures, and even shadows of his own insecurities. Are you scared, Naruto? A dark version of Sasuke taunted, its voice dripping with mockery. Will your friends really stand by you when the darkness comes for you? No. Naruto shouted, shaking his head. They're with me. I fought too hard to let you manipulate me. The dark figures lunged forward, and the team instinctively spread out to confront them. Don't let them get to you, Sasuke called, unleashing his Chidori against the nearest shadow. Fight back. Hinata stepped forward, her Byakugan glowing fiercely. Gentle fist, she shouted, striking at the shadows, disrupting their forms. But the dark figures only multiplied, surrounding them with taunts and whispers that clawed at their resolve. Your bonds will break. You are weak. They hissed in unison. A rallying cry, enough. Naruto bellowed, channeling his chakra into a swirling Rasengan. We are not weak. We are stronger together. As he launched the attack, the swirling energy illuminated the cave, momentarily pushing back the darkness. The shadows writhed, but as the Rasengan connected, they began to dissipate. Keep fighting, Naruto encouraged, his voice echoing through the cavern. We won't let them take us down. The team rallied around him, focusing their chakra together. Sasuke unleashed his lightning while Sakura and Ino combined their techniques to create a massive wave of energy that surged through the shadows. Mind-body switch, Ino shouted, taking control of one of the dark figures, causing it to attack its own comrades. Shikamaru's shadow extended, binding several of the creatures in place. Now, Hinata, go for the core, gentle fist, Hinata yelled, charging forward with confidence. Her strikes hit true, disrupting the shadows and pushing them back. A moment of doubt yet. Even in their moment of unity, Naruto felt a flicker of doubt within himself. The whispers returned, more insistent. They won't always stand by you. They'll see your weaknesses. He shook his head, trying to dispel the thoughts. No, I won't listen to you, he shouted, focusing on the faces of his friends. I won't let fear control me. The darkness surged again, but Naruto felt a surge of warmth and strength from his teammates. Their bonds were real, forged through countless battles and trials. Together, Sasuke shouted, and the team focused their energy once more. The final stand with a collective shout. They unleashed their final attacks. Naruto, Sasuke, Hinata, and Sakura formed a powerful barrier of light, pushing back the darkness that surrounded them. Rasengan. Naruto cried, channeling all his strength into one final strike. Chidori. Sasuke added, lightning coursing through the air. Gentle fist. Hinata's strikes created a whirlwind of energy, while Sakura added her healing chakra to empower their attack. As their combined force surged forward, the darkness shrieked, a sound filled with rage and despair. The light consumed the shadows, banishing them into nothingness. Emerging from the shadows when the dust settled, the cave was silent. The dark figures had vanished, leaving only echoes of their taunts behind. The oppressive atmosphere lifted, and the air felt lighter. "We did it!" Naruto exclaimed, breathing heavily, his heart racing with adrenaline and relief. "We faced the darkness and won." As the team regrouped, Tazuna and the villagers stood at the entrance, their faces filled with awe and gratitude. "You've done it! You vanquished the darkness!" Tazuna cried, tears of relief glistening in his eyes. But even as they celebrated, Naruto felt a lingering sense of unease. The voice had warned them. Darkness could always return. A new path forward. Later that night, as they sat around a campfire, the team reflected on their victory. The flickering flames cast shadows on their faces, but their spirits were high. "We fought well today," Shikamaru said, a hint of pride in his voice. "But we need to remain vigilant. Darkness can always find a way back." "I agree," Sasuke added, his expression serious. "We can't let our guard down. We have to be prepared for whatever comes next." Naruto nodded, looking at each of his friends. "No matter what happens, I know we can face it together. We're stronger than our fears." As they shared stories and laughter around the fire, Naruto felt a warmth within him, a bond forged not just in battle, but in trust and friendship. An ominous horizon. But as they gazed at the stars above, Naruto couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was far from over. In the depths of the cave, the darkness had spoken of a greater threat. He knew they would need to remain united to face whatever awaited them on the horizon. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it a sense of foreboding. But Naruto held on to hope, knowing that as long as they stood together, they could overcome anything.